Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Loose to run it and block. Separate blind. Manson over to pick it up, but it's Middlestead instead. Straight ahead, Taves. Long wrister. Up the pipe and far down to Taves. It's about dang time. Walks down Highsmith. Got him in the air. Scored. Kings by 2. Tipped it out to DeRozan on the Carom. 6 on the clock. Playing with a spoon. Sidestep 3 for him. DeMar DeRozan connects. 3 to shoot. Hero knows it. He fires it out. Makes it. The Hero delivered a huge 3. Edwards. Sidestep. Fires. And he drilled it. Kill shot, ladies and gentlemen. Edwards. 3 more. Oh my God.
You know, Iowa's second in the nation in scoring. They're so potent in their attack. They've always got 5 guys on the floor that can make a play and make a shot. They don't turn it over. They do a really good job of finding the hot hand, and they run a lot of, you know, very random type action. So it's a hard game to prep for just because of all the different things that they do, you know, to keep you moving. And it's one of the best ball movement, player movement team that we'll face all year.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. DB, what's going on? You mad at the
again? Yeah.
Okay. Well, what do you want me to do here?
I don't know. But we're gonna have to.
What would you like me to do?
Well, I mean, I got some options. You know, I feel like.
What kind of options are we talking about
here? I feel like I may have to provide for you, like I do for the boys.
Well, and Shane, you bring Shane food every once in a while.
Yeah. So I found a couple things I think you could.
Okay.
Probably.
If you're not sure,
get your mouth around.
If you're not sure what's going on, DB's mad about my Uncrustables here.
Yeah, they're just not good. I can't, in good faith, sit and watch you, like, do this to yourself.
What bothers you about it?
They're not good for you.
Well, I eat Nutter Butters. Let's not get crazy here. They're not terrible for you.
No, they 100%. That's a word I would use. I would actually use El Terrible.
Well, now Smuckers is never going to sponsor us, so thanks. I appreciate it.
I do like jelly though.
You big grape or strawberry guy?
Given the choice,
yeah.
In a pinch, probably strawberry.
I'm giving you the choice.
Strawberry. I like both, though.
I'm a grape guy.
I like both.
Prefer the
There's
grape
both
jelly.
in our household.
Yeah.
I like apple too.
Oh, apple jelly?
Oh, it's sensational.
I don't think I've ever had apple jelly.
In my former life, sometimes when we didn't have what I wanted to eat around the house, my mom would do one of 2 things.
Yeah.
She would put some bread with butter on it and a little pinch of sugar, and she would brown it in the oven.
Mm-hmm.
And I would either pour syrup on it and eat it like that.
Yeah.
Or I would use apple jelly and eat it like that.
I'm not sure I've ever even seen apple jelly.
Yeah. It's see, apple has gone by the wayside, kind of much like having success in the transfer portal is gone by the wayside.
We're out on the transfer portal.
Apple's one of those flavors, man, that people just can't understand its greatness.
I prefer citrus flavored things. I like citrusy things.
I mean, they got rid of apple slice, which was a flat out travesty.
The soda?
Yes.
Yeah, I never had that.
Incredible.
How about them apples?
I mean, you can get apple butter jelly. I mean, but it might as well be a Nutter Butter.
Is that like apple bottom jeans?
Defeats the purpose.
The boots. I eat Nutter Butters.
I think with apple bottom jeans, it's not in the jeans; it's in the actual figure.
It's in the bottom.
Sure, but you have to have the apple bottom jeans with the boot with the. Speaking of which, this is not okay. Well,
yeah,
went down the old Joy Taylor rabbit hole last night.
Yeah. Gotta be careful there.
I hope Terrence could get to sleep because I was sending him things
T-Mac
at an obnoxious hour. Matter of fact, old T-Mac hit me with a, okay, go to bed.
Did he?
Yeah.
You hit me with one at like 250 the other morning.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, bud, you're not going to feel good. Just like, I didn't say that to you, but internally
Jim Butler, was that the Jim Butler one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I'm as I wake up at like 5:30, I start like checking my phone or whatever. I was like, oh, bud.
So I figured, like, what was that presser going to get him? And inevitably it got him 7 games.
Yeah, I mean,
He just wanted to find his joy. Man.
Inevitably it might get him what he wants, which is out of Miami.
Yeah.
How do you think one Jacob Padilla feels about James Chenoweth Butler in Phoenix?
Almost positive that's not his middle name.
It's not Chenoweth?
No, that's
Not
Chris.
Eric?
That's Kristen.
Eric?
Who's Eric Chenoweth?
Was Chenoweth, did he play for Kansas?
Oh, yes, he did. That's what it is.
Deep pull by your boy.
I was going with the original star of Wicked on Broadway, Kristen Chenoweth. No? Not a big musical guy?
No.
You seem like you would be.
That's 100% not true.
You seem like you'd be a big musical theater guy.
No.
You sure?
No.
Eric Chenoweth, 7'1", center.
Yeah.
Big guy.
I remember Eric Chenoweth.
I was more on the Scott Pollard.
No, Pollard was nice, though.
Yeah, he was a big center for Kansas as well. Ended up being kind of a weirdo for the Kings, dyeing his hair all different colors.
Not as nice as my man Marty Brown, though.
Marty Brown?
Yes, Sharmar, a.k.a. Marty.
What about Shaka Khan?
No, Omar Khan, maybe. They got to keep Weidel.
What about Kubla?
Big Kubla Khan guy. No, I am, actually.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. A couple of empires I used to like to study.
Yeah.
I like the whole Ottoman thing, but I like Genghis and Kubla, and I liked the Mayas, Incas, and Aztecs.
Big Genghis Khan guy?
Big Genghis Khan guy.
That's kind of a tough look.
Yeah. I have some weird. I have some weird.
Is he fall into your like serial killer?
All right. I have to be careful because I'm not all in on world domination.
That's good to know.
But I was fascinated. When I was younger.
DB here for dictatorships.
Not exactly. Didn't work out for some of us.
For most of us.
Yeah, well, it's whatever.
Unless you're the dictator, like it's not a great look for most people.
Colonization, assimilation, it's all the same.
Big Genghis Khan guy, though. You know, at one point,
not necessarily.
You know, at one point he killed so many people it actually like reduced
allegedly
the CO2 emissions.
Allegedly,
like there's a dip,
yeah,
and it lines up with his reign. It's like, oh man, that guy killed a lot of people.
Allegedly,
you hear on Vlad the Impaler too?
No, on Vlad.
Out on Vlad.
Yeah, out on Vlad. Great call on India shoot. Even though I was riding with you, that wasn't like, ooh, you went out on a limb.
No,
great call on the Bison.
Yeah, national champs.
Yeah.
10 out of
records sold, but great call on the Bison.
10 out of 14.
Tell you what, man,
that's a nice little run.
So you know what was interesting about a team that's been that good that long? When
you're talking about like 5 different head coaches.
Well, that's impressive.
That's crazy.
Or
4 or 5. It's getting up there.
Yeah, Kleiman. So
Bowl,
Kleiman, Enns, and
what's his name now?
Yeah. So 4 for sure.
Yeah.
But listen, so during that time when the new kids on the block, Please Don't Go Girl, the Jackrabbits arrived on the scene,
Polisic,
we left kind of NDSU for dead.
Yeah.
Didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We're like, oh, shoot, look how quick changing of the guard happened.
When Enns left for a defensive coordinator position.
Man, my Enzo.
Or not even, a linebacker coach at USC, right? So we go, okay, this program went from producing FBS head coaches to this guy left for a position coach job and not even a coordinator job. We thought the luster might be off it a little bit. Yeah. And SDSU was coming up. And we go, ooh, did they get replaced? Did all the turnover finally come and get them? Because that's natural, right? I mean, look what happened at Alabama in 1 year. Because that's what NDSU was. It was Alabama of FCS, right? So we look at it, we go, oh, that's like, it's impressive they went from Bowl to Kleiman and didn't fall off. It's impressive they went from Kleiman to Enns without falling off. and they finally fell off.
Yeah, it just.
And then, just kidding, they have a national championship.
And how good was that quarterback play last night?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I still have a hard time. I'm like, Cam Miller really got beat out for Walter Payton?
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time with it. I'm going to be honest with you.
Those guys are way good.
I get that Malosic is really good. But Malott. Yeah. Where did I get Malott? Oh, I was looking at Polisic.
You were thinking Cam is in Malott or Christian? He did come back to the national team, add a little punch.
No, I was thinking Tim Polisic, who I just looked up as NDSU's head coach.
Yeah.
And then
he looks a lot. He looks very Biza in as a head coach, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks
very, very crabby.
He looks like he belongs
Miller is, I don't know, man. He's just sweet. And I love FCS. I got into a fantastic conversation with the head coach, the current head coach, Dan Jackson. We were talking about FCS and what kind of some of his strengths could be and kind of how you have to view it. And I don't think he had any idea what he was walking into. So Godspeed to old DJ. But I love watching it. I watched Mount Union and North Central. You made fun of me for watching North Central a year ago.
Yes.
But I watched them again this year.
Yeah. No, I made fun of you for knowing things about, for North having Central? A take.
Oh.
That's what I made fun of you for, is for having a D3 take.
There wasn't anything strong, I don't think. I like the fact that they look like they had Shane playing quarterback, and he's been tremendous throughout his career. But I am mad that so they've gone some of these guys, and my man Marty Sharmar Wares, I wonder, so he must have gone with his government.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He's calling Marty.
Yeah.
Marty was so good as a youth that Coach Ryan Terry, would not let one Caleb Benning play offense. He spent a whole year just making 1,000 tackles.
Defense only?
Until the championship game. They threw him the ball once and he caught it and they won. It was like fourth and a gazillion. I was standing next to Zach Wiegert. I don't know why Zach was there. Maybe watching his – who was Zach? Maybe watching his son. I don't know. Next. This is eons ago. It's like 12 degrees out in this flipping windstorm. And Junior Little Vikes were about to get upset. He's like, no, I got a trick play up my sleeve. The only time where they put that dude in the wing – I'm like, I wonder what they're going to do. And they threw it to him. But Marty was so good. And it was weird because he runs the exact same way. You're like, oh, he's not this. He's not that. Oh, he's not this. Oh, gosh, you've given up $200. Right? And he did the same thing in prep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just is really good. So shout out to the Bison and my man Jackson Williams.
Yeah, they made it a little
Miller.
They made it a little interesting.
Well, you gotta tip your cap. That Montana State team that they made look real pedestrian early in
the first half,
was incredible because you saw how explosive they were.
Yeah, because they came out in the second half.
They just raced folks.
Well,
by the way, if you wanted a precursor, you could have seen the South Dakota State game before that. But
I did watch North Dakota State, South Dakota State.
Yeah, where you lived.
That was a great game.
No, South Dakota and Montana State.
Oh, no, I didn't watch that.
In case you're a little degenerate.
I watched NDSU, SDSU, but I didn't watch the other semi.
And now SDSU kind of has to reload.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They're in a tough spot.
Yeah, they lost a couple studs, too.
They're losing their quarterback.
Yeah.
And
I told you, the Bryce Hawthorne kid.
Either that you wanted Nebraska to go after.
Yeah, and and I got that on a humbug from my guy. And we almost beat him to the punch.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my guy was on him early. And he's like, hey, Merry Christmas. This is what I need you to do. I was like, shoot. Wait, who's in on him? Oh, yeah, we got to beat them.
Yeah.
And then it just
did not beat them.
No, but you know what? And good on Bryce, though, because I think, and I respect my buddy because he's very He's a good guy, right?
Mhm.
Like not all about the frill and he's just a good blue collar dude. And he's like, I think he's just kind of overwhelmed with the attention he's getting. Let's just now it's like, you know what? I almost said his name. I was like, you know what, buddy? Like I can appreciate that. Because I know how you think.
Mhm.
I mean, you go to work, like it's just too much. Like chill. Now, school down the street was not particularly happy with him, but it's fine. I mean, win some, lose some. So he must have canceled his last visit because last I knew he was going to Iowa and Wisconsin, and Iowa locked him up in a hurry.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and they might end up with the quarterback as well.
Listen, and don't let like these schools around here fool you that you don't think are all about NIL and going to get players. I mean, Iowa called about Lloyd in 5 milliseconds.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of a misnomer about Iowa.
I think there's more than a misnomer.
If you want to look at places that maybe don't have that, I'd look at Iowa State.
Yeah.
I don't think Iowa State has the infrastructure and kind of the same level of financial support. But
I forgot what an appreciation I have for Tyler Barnes too.
I was gonna get after it though.
Big Tyler Barnes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was. I mean, I was.
And then he wound up at Okie State.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was funny too because I mean Jalen Lloyd was somehow they put him. It couldn't have been him because he's not like that. But he was on TikTok, and it had to come from the Okie State account.
Yeah.
Because my man had on this black cowboy hat. He had to say it. I was like, oh shoot, man, it kind of looks cool.
It's kind of a cool look.
Kind of looks.
It's not bad.
But I mean, Okie State's pretty much starting over.
Good track program down there.
And internally.
Yeah.
So this might be Gundy's like Stoops 2.0, where you get the chance to reboot.
You like reinvent yourself
and see if you got one more run in you.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because that's the first thing I thought of when Lloyd committed to Oklahoma State was, is Mike Gundy going to be there in 2 years?
Yeah, I think so.
He's got to get it right.
I hope it doesn't change too much, and I certainly hope it doesn't go like this for Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you're afforded that luxury as a young man.
Maybe not.
You know, you hope you're in a program where you can think 2 years down the road, and if you are, consider it a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I'm telling you, man, I think that is still going to be Nebraska's superpower.
Is consistency?
Yeah,
like cohesiveness.
Yeah, because I'm just going to go back to what Coach Rule said a handful of weeks ago when he said, and he even said it at Big Ten Media Days.
Mm-hmm.
So the message has been consistent. He said, through all this chaos and transactional stuff, I still think this is going to be about the coaches that work the smartest and stay together the longest.
Mm. Yeah.
So you can just kind of tell what his
philosophy is for sure. I know with kind of the landscape of how things are today, if you're a Jalen Lloyd or anybody else in the transfer portal, the tendency is going to be like, okay, what's it look like this year? But I think if you're a kid and you've got a minute to step back, it would actually benefit you to be like, okay, is this a place I can be for 2 years? Is this a place? Because I know in the moment it feels like you don't have that luxury. But if you can just give yourself a second and give yourself an opportunity to say, hey, what does this look like for me? Not just in the immediate and I don't know, I'm not trying to speak for Jalen, but other guys in the transfer portal, like not just about what does my paycheck look like this year? What does my roster situation look like this year? But you could say, hey, what does it look like? Because do you really want to have to transfer again after next year?
No.
Right? Like you don't want to. Yeah, like all things being
that's actually a good point.
All things being equal.
I'm shocked.
I know it doesn't happen a lot.
Shocked.
All things being equal, if you're a kid, like you probably don't want to have to transfer from the place you commit out of high school, right? Like you'd love to be there for 3 years, win a lot, go pro, and that's your career, right? If you do have to transfer, you would love it if you don't have to transfer again after the next year. And because like that's not fun for anybody. You would love it if, hey, you get taken care of, you make a little bit of money, you play some good football, and then you have an opportunity to go do what you want to do next, whatever that is after college.
Yeah.
And so I think guys are really going to be benefited from trying to take a step back and just looking at it and go, okay, what does this look like? Not just for next football season. What does this look like in my next couple years? Because, I mean, I was looking at Nebraska's transfer portal class coming in this year. 9 of those 14 guys have multiple years of
That's
eligibility.
what I told you. Like, you can see that it's a thing.
That's the thing that Rule's trying to do, right? And he's purposely doing that. And so if Rule's trying to do it because he thinks there's value there, shouldn't, as a kid, you think, hey, maybe I should be doing this too?
I know what you're saying. I just don't think you're afforded that luxury sometimes in the moment, because I think panic sets in. Like, you have to go back to 19 to 22-year-old you,
Sure.
and then see kind of what kind of like tutelage and advice you're getting. Sometimes you have super strong, heavy-handed parents. Sometimes you have a handler. Sometimes
you got agents
you're
now.
working with an agent, which I mean, if you ask a lot of these schools, I think they much prefer to deal with the student athlete, him or herself.
Sure.
But now it's like the representative of the representative.
So I would almost say that
and a lot of these men and women, volleyball is the real monster.
Oh, yeah.
Where your parents are like the CEO of your entity.
Yeah. And it starts when you're like 12.
It's like it's
I mean, it starts with those girls when they're like 12, right?
It's very difficult.
I would almost say, though, that the schools are afforded less of that luxury than the players are in terms of looking long term. Because to me, if you're Gundy or if you're Matt Rule or if you're any of those guys, or like Kalen DeBoer is a really good example right now, right? Kalen DeBoer doesn't have a lot of long-term options. He's got to win a lot next year or he will be fired.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like, that's a dude that lost 4 games at Alabama coming off of Nick Saban. That dude has to win a bunch next year or he's getting fired. Players, I think, actually, if they don't allow the panic to set in, I actually think players have more of a leeway than some coaches do.
It's interesting.
I think a lot of it is emotional, like you're talking about, and that's real. And a lot of it is good or bad advice, which is real. But the reality of the landscape, if you're a valuable commodity, right? If you're a valuable kid, and for all we are aware of, Jalen Lloyd had a lot of options, right? That's a guy that was coveted in the portal.
100%.
So if you're a guy like that, like, listen, there are guys where it's like, hey, you better find a spot or you're not going to have a spot. That didn't seem to be the case for Jalen Lloyd.
No.
So he actually is a guy that would have a luxury of being like, hey, what does the next 2 years look like, not just this year?
I would love to know, too, kind of what the process looks like. Because each portal case is different.
Sure, 100%.
Right? So I think, some want opportunity, some kind of want to be valued.
Someone just want to get paid.
Some want tape.
Yeah.
Some want to get paid. And I wonder with the 4 or 5 immediate suitors that reached out to Jalen, and I knew Okie State was in early. I wonder. I think at the end of the day, this is total speculation. I'd have to ask mom or dad, or even Jalen for that matter. I think his real personality won out. He's low maintenance. And so I don't think he wanted to go through
the whole thing,
the whole courting and courtship. I think it was, he goes by feel. If he likes it, the opportunity's good. He's not going to play around. Right? I think he just wants to, because it was a very quick decision given what I think is out there.
I want to get back.
Shoot, he could have hopped on a plane to Tallahassee.
I want to get back to that here in a second, because I think in some ways that's positive, but I think it can backfire a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll talk about that next year on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, reminding you if you're out driving your way to work this morning to make that seat belt click. It prevents injuries and saves lives, but only if worn properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Coming up on the show here today, we've got a little college football playoff preview with Mike Gross, who covers Penn State for Lancaster Online. We'll also talk to Steven Means, who covers Ohio State for Cleveland.com. And then, of course, we'll talk to our Tuesday regular, Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. DB.
Yes.
You were talking about kind of this process, decision-making process for Jalen Lloyd specifically as he goes to Oklahoma State, right? And you were talking about how he is a pretty low-maintenance kid, so didn't necessarily want to go through the whole courtship situation, right? Is there a place in your mind where you can kind of get to that can sometimes backfire on a kid? Because I look at that situation, I go, hey, I like that he's low maintenance. I like that he doesn't need all the courtship and bells and whistles. But not wanting to go through the process may have you making a decision without all the information.
So yes and no. It depends on it's like business, right? So sometimes you'll go into negotiations and you know what you want, and it isn't necessary to test the market.
Okay,
right? That's kind of what I liken it to.
Here's the question, though: if you don't test the market, how do you know someone else can't give you better what you want?
It depends on your personality. Like, this is a perfect question for a guy like me that has a fairly low maintenance lifestyle, so it wouldn't take much.
Sure.
So sometimes I don't push the envelope because I can get by. Doesn't mean that I've done a good job of a poor job of exploring all my options. I just know what's enough to sustain me. So anything more than that would be gravy.
But the juice isn't worth the squeeze for you.
Sometimes, but it mostly has to do with my mental makeup. Whether I look at it is, I am a little traumatized in the early 2000s about having too much too fast. Right. So was not a very good steward.
Okay.
Just the lifestyle. So I don't know if I've resigned myself to, You
think there's a little fear there of, if I go back, I still may not be able to handle it.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you can't be good with a little, it's almost impossible to be good with a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So from a personality standpoint, sometimes I just think, I think of
who?
I think of LP, where people would always this monetary opportunity, or do this for this, or man, you could do this and make this, or just do this and they'll give you this back. And I remember he always used to say, man, he goes, I've never had money. It doesn't mean that, it doesn't motivate my thought process like it would
for other people.
Yeah. Right. And so I just think insert blank, right? I've never really been a big, I want to expend a ton of time and energy chasing. So therefore I don't want to do a lot of running. I mean that metaphorically.
Yeah. If you've got what you need, why continue to chase?
There are a lot of people that hate the recruiting process because they don't like the dog and pony show.
Sure.
So the minute that they feel like, that they're satiated or they're satisfied, they're ready. They don't need to compare and contrast it to something else. They compare and contrast it to what they need
to their baseline.
It's not everybody else's, right? Like if I'm some corporate bigwig, I don't need to shop my services between, this is totally fictitious, but like Apple, IBM, and
Google. Sure. Yeah.
Right. I know what would sustain me. So, and I think a lot of kids are like, Borkature was like that, where he knew what he wanted specifically, and it wasn't necessarily about money or he wanted tape. Tape.
Yeah.
I want to extend my career. I want a lot of catches and I want a lot of opportunity. If you can provide that for me, cool. Maybe I did leave money on the table someplace else. I don't know. But I'm not worried about that because that's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
Right? So, and if you go back to Jalen or any kid, volleyball is actually probably a better example.
Yeah, you brought that up in the last segment.
Because a lot of times with volleyball and this level of competition, it's more about opportunity to continue to do what you've kind of been pegged to do since forever versus what can you give me? You know, and I think
we see that with a lot of players that both come and leave Nebraska.
just one opportunity.
Yeah.
So
Juravicius is a good example.
yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Or Badenhorst.
Yeah.
Right? Like
She obviously loved it here.
right.
Loved her teammates.
And it was reciprocated.
And now she's back in Omaha. With
Yeah,
the
so I think
Supernovas.
you know, volleyball may be a better example, but
for some of those
of those
instances.
things that I'm trying to say, but I think with guys in the portal, that's what a lot of it's about. And that's why I was kind of secretly hoping this is so bad. But I was secretly hoping this whole time over this last handful of years that administration and people that were handling the money would there'd just be a bunch of bad transactions.
In what sense?
I wanted people to not hold up their end of the deal. Because at the end of the day, when I first was big on name, image, and likeness, I was like, you know what? It's going to force people to be who they say they are, one way or the other. The coaches, the recruiters, the players. Everybody, there's going to be built-in accountability because there's going to be common language, which is going to be what it is that you're making versus the skills that what you're providing.
Yeah.
So everybody was going to be held accountable in some way, shape, or form. So as this thing went on, I was like, man, I hope that there are so many bad business deals. The more lawsuits there are about people not following through with NIL, because you know what I figured would happen?
What's that?
People would be more discriminant about the deals that they took. They would just become better in the process of evaluating being used.
That hasn't happened yet.
I still think it's going to happen.
It might. I mean, you've got
because you have this one last round of free-for-alls.
Yes. Before,
and that's why I keep saying just be patient.
Before the revenue sharing comes in.
Next, because even with the revenue sharing, it still will be tiered.
Yeah.
It just will have a little
more structure.
More structure. But by then, and this is what I was talking to Coach Jackson about, there will be so many kids left in the portal that they will revisit how they got here.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because that's really me. It's like I just had this conversation and in a back and forth. I'm like, yeah, but how'd we get here? Let's not just like.
I think that's starting this year with the roster limits.
How did we get here? Let's talk about that, because once you figure that out, then you're going to be less apt to repeat the situation. Like, how did we find ourselves in this situation?
I think it might take a couple cycles.
Well, I'm just hoping it happens sooner rather than later.
Well, you're going to there's going to have to be a lot of good players that are left without a place to go before people really start to adjust. That to me is where you get the change, right? Is where you've got some self-awareness at some point where you go, oh, that guy's really good. And he ended up where? In terms of like, he went to FCS?
Like
he went to.
No, I hear you, but I already think Nebraska is better spending than they were a year ago.
Probably.
Oh,
I mean, I think Coach Rule is very good at kind of learning from his mistakes, and not repeating those. Yeah. So yeah, I would be disappointed if they weren't better spending this year,
just better
than they were last year.
Right? Yeah. We go back to the high school and the recruiting, and we go back to guys like, I don't know, like Coleman, and I just think you learn, and Nair, like you just learn.
Here's
Tommy
the hard
Hill. You it's like, okay.
Here's the hard thing about guys like Coleman, though, is there's a lot of things about Malachi Coleman that sort of fit what Rule wants. He's a developmental guy. Malachi's got all the physical tools you could possibly want. He's a local guy. Coach Rule's been very adamant about keeping local guys in state.
I wonder what would have happened with that room had the leadership in that room gone different from day one.
Yeah.
That's what we don't know. That's why I'm not going to judge the play
And that's what we can't know.
That's what we won't know.
Yeah.
Right now, they can only get it right going forward in that room.
But it is an interesting question. That's DB. I'm Ravi. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. DB.
Yes.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm okay. Just making up stories for Shane.
Yeah, you
gotta admit, like you're like, man, that dude is nuts, but he sure is creative.
No, definitely nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
whoa. skipped over the creative part.
Also creative.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
That's one word for it.
Thank you very much.
When you're not out here just singing the praises of Genghis Khan and
That totally is taken
out of context.
I don't know. I asked several times. So you're a big Genghis Khan guy, and you're like, yeah, I am.
That's not exactly.
I don't really know what to do with that.
It's not exactly what I said.
Outside, I mean, it's a little bit what you said.
So I got a couple guys that are on the same page here.
I mean, I don't know if you can deal with TK over here.
Why? What TK said?
TK goes, Genghis.
You know he's crazy, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
He goes, Genghis Khan, not as bad as some serial killers. And I was like,
Kill a lot more people.
Like an aggressive number of people.
I watched a super cheesy show yesterday. I can't believe, and Caleb was upstairs too, so we made it like 15 minutes, and then we just gutted it out.
Yeah.
Until he had to get Micah from Warren Academy. And it was with Jaleel White.
Okay.
You know, the typecast dude, the black dude.
Is that Steve Urkel? Jaleel White?
No, it's not Jaleel White. Jaleel, Malcolm Carter, Jaleel
Okafor?
No.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about, the Kung Fu dude.
Malcolm Jamel Warner.
Kung Fu Panda?
Oh, my gosh. If you don't knock it off. He played Spawn.
Spawn? Who played Spawn? I don't know.
You know what the John Leguizamo dude?
I know who John Leg was. Michael Jai White? Michael Jai White.
What'd I say? Jaleel White?
Jaleel White, who I think is Urkel.
Whatever.
I'm pretty sure he's
okay,
Urkel.
whatever. I mean, it's similar. I can say that. You can't say that. But anyway, this dude was in
they're both white.
White.
Their last name is White.
White.
They're both whites.
White.
They're whites.
Whites.
Does this guy just play movies where he beats people up?
Yes. Okay. Which is what this movie was. And
I think I've seen him in something.
Well, it's probably very similar. And I forgot what I was going to tell that story. Tell that.
You're watching this movie with Caleb. Michael Jai White's in it. Not Jaleel White. Talking about Genghis Khan, serial killers.
No, I can't remember.
So
all these guys just kept dying. And I'm not going to give away the plot of the story because it was just super. It's stupid.
Definitely a movie that we're all going to watch.
No, it was dumb. But one of the guys they had in it always plays this like notorious bad guy. He was the Terminator. He was the guy that played the unstoppable Terminator, and he could like morph into
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He looked like the metallic that could like be poured. Do you know what I'm talking about? And he was a police officer, and then so that guy was his boss for the CIA, and he kept killing people, but it was for quote unquote the right reason. So
you think Genghis Khan killed people for the right reasons?
No, where I was
Terminator 2, the T-1000.
So where I was going with that is, it's not going to sound right. I'm not going anywhere with that.
Oh,
where Nebraska basketball?
Where are we going with that?
No, because you just were handing me a shovel, and I'm going to give it back. I was not going to be able to spin out of that.
I know Michael Jai White from The Dark Knight. He plays one of the gangsters in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, he was just he had to put a smile on that face.
Yeah. That's it. No, that's okay.
Why should we listen to this clown?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's like, hey, I want to show you a trick.
I'll show you a magic trick.
It's one of the greatest scenes in that movie.
Oh, great movie. Love that movie.
Yeah.
That's one of my all-timers.
So I have two friends that are of the same vein.
Okay.
I'm going to read you something. Because one of my guys has been on this junior college benefiting thing forever. No, not forever. Probably 3 months. Okay.
Benefiting from the changes in FBS.
Yeah, he goes, it's not going to be FCS DB. It's going to be.
I disagree there.
Okay, so now listen. Okay, so ride with me here.
All right.
So my other buddy, he's like, listen, the portal issue has been this way since its inception. They've been tracking the amount of kids that went in compared to getting out. If you do not go in with a plan, good luck. Like they said to my man in Taken, good luck.
That's how they found him.
He said, hey, I don't speak Albanian.
What does this say?
What does this say? Good luck.
Got him. Got him.
He says if he do not. Nice tangent, DB. Focus. If you do not go in with a plan, good luck. With the potential of junior college eligibility, it will be worse. May see a trickle down for lower levels due to NIL. If they don't, they may be left without benefit. So, are you in or without anything, not benefit?
Mm-hmm.
Are you in or out on junior college guys reaping the benefits versus FCS?
If I have to make a choice,
I disagree with that.
Between the two, I'm out.
Well, that was such a strong stance. Give me something.
I think both will benefit. I think FCS is going to benefit a lot from this.
Me too.
A ton.
Me too.
I think JUCO will also benefit, and this is, I think some FCS programs, if especially ones that aren't established, like our friends up in the Dakotas, are going to
aren't established.
I
was about to say
no people that aren't established like the ones in the Dakota. So everybody else, right?
Yeah, you said that weird.
I phrased it strangely.
Okay, go ahead.
But I'm talking about the people that don't have wagons that they're running already.
That's such a funny thing. I haven't gotten into it, but I like when people.
I kind of like how it sounds.
Wagon.
Like, oh, it's a wagon.
Yeah.
No, I think the program. I do think there's going to be certain programs at the FCS that are going to find success almost running themselves like JUCOs for FBS football. In terms of like
just give in.
Yeah, they're just factories. Like, hey, I understand your goal is not to end up here, but I can get you to where you want to go. That's the whole JUCO pitch, right? I recruited against it for years at the NAI level. We lost more kids to JUCO than we did other NAI schools, right? But it's because they had the promise. I was going to sit there and tell them the truth, be like, hey, if you come to my program, you may have a really good career. You're going to get a good education. And
see, that's only going to work really with football.
Yes. And basketball.
I don't know.
Basketball, you can for sure.
So
because basketball already kind of
basketball, you go in with that sentiment already.
Yes, basketball's already kind of that way.
Yeah,
with the lower level schools. But that's why I think it's also going to happen.
That's for sure not going to work in volleyball.
But
no, it's fine.
No, but for football purposes, I think there's going to be some FCS programs that will find success by acting like JUCOs. I think some JUCO programs will find more success because they'll have access to better and different athletes than they currently do.
So you think Hendo's going to be like, hey, Jay Jackson, just give me another year and a half, man. I got you. See what we did with Will
I don't
Kyle?
know if they specifically
You know what I mean?
But I think there will be coaches that do that. I think it's the Calipari model. That was Calipari's whole pitch at Kentucky. It wasn't come win a national championship. It was come go to the NBA.
Yep.
And it worked. He got almost every guy he wanted for a really long time.
Yep.
Right? Now, probably didn't win as much as his talent indicated he should have.
How many guys are going to have to be left in the portal? This is going to border on lunacy.
It is. There's going to be a ton. This year's going to be probably the worst because it's the initial cut down, right? In terms of just pure number of guys. But there'll be a lag where guys don't understand that the market has changed, right? There's going to be a lag with some guys, I think probably for the next 2 years, where they don't understand that, oh, I was a 4-star coming out of high school, but those guys are a dime a dozen. 4-stars coming out of high school that didn't play as freshmen are a dime a dozen in the portal.
And I know you got mad at me yesterday off air when I said, secretly, it's not a secret anymore based on what I'm about to say. Like, I'm cheering for Texas.
Yeah.
And you're like.
Well, I wasn't mad at you. I was shocked because I know how much you hate Texas.
Right.
So I was stunned.
Right. But I don't want Ohio State's model to work.
Just pay for it.
Because I don't know how well I don't know, like, top to bottom, like
how well coached they are.
That's a strong term.
That's what you wanted to say, though.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's just not a cohesive group. They're just uber talented.
Yeah.
So, like, when they get rolling, it's like, oh, fudge. Like, at their best, they're legit.
Texas more cohesive than Ohio State?
Yes.
Okay.
Texas has been through it. Texas has been pretty maligned for as talented as they are.
I also think
Texas gets a lot. They get more butts than like Penn State and Notre Dame, and Texas is more talented.
Well, and I don't know. I'm going to look this up real time here, but I don't know that their transfer portal activity has been
I'm with you.
As aggressive.
I'm with you.
I'm going to look it up right now because I want to make sure I'm right here.
Although their best offensive player,
it
came from Houston.
Yeah,
but
overall, I don't know that they've been.
Anecdotally, I'm inclined to agree with you.
I'm looking it up right now.
But I'm cheering for Texas because I want anybody else in the Big Ten to be good but Ohio State.
Oh, fair. I mean, that's fair. So,
you know what I mean?
So you like Penn State?
What do you mean, like?
I mean, more the way they put their team together.
Yes.
Because that's one of the teams you put as most cohesive.
Yes.
It's them, Georgia, Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, and by the way, 2 of the 4 teams that are on the dirty side are left in this deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I may kind of be smart.
You may be getting somewhere on this one.
Maybe. I mean, Ohio State's gonna have to stub their toe though.
Maybe. You don't think Texas can just beat them?
Yes. No.
So that's not stubbing their toe. Like they have to lose.
Yeah.
But like Texas can just beat them straight up without Ohio State wetting the bed.
But I am. Sounds gross, man. But I am cheering for Texas. And you're like, well, what about the SEC? I'm like, they're not even a real SEC team yet.
They're really not. But I'm cheering for.
And remember, let's not act like Texas wasn't supposed to struggle their first year in the SEC. We'll see.
The way Oklahoma
Texas,
did.
Yeah, Texas was just fine.
I'm just rooting for Notre Dame to beat the brains out of whoever comes out of that side. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, right here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Some comments on the good old YouTube.
How are you? They're those guys, man.
David chimes in. I could see how you would get Michael Jai White confused with Steve Urkel, DB. I mean, they both have the same body composition and all. Low-key, you know what's kind of funny, though? Is Jaleel White ended up like actually pretty jacked. Like when he grew up.
I haven't seen him in 10 years.
Like he got like in good shape.
What's he in?
I have no idea. I think he just like hangs around a little bit.
Just hanging around.
Yeah, but he doesn't look like Urkel. My point.
You saw Amazing Daniel, right?
What an amazing.
I've had some blunders, so of course this one is
not
Shane,
unusual.
Who was the most? So I mixed up two ladies. Was it Paltrow and? No, it wasn't Gwyneth Paltrow. Who played Eileen Wuornos?
I have no idea.
Who played the serial killer lady in the movie?
In which movie?
Well, the lady I just told you her name. It's Eileen Wuornos. I think it was Monster, maybe.
American serial killer.
No, listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth.
Yes,
Eileen Wuornos. It's WOUR.
Yeah, I found her. I'm just Charlize Theron.
Okay, so she's one. Is she the one that played in Something About Mary? No, she's not.
That's Cameron Diaz.
Okay, those are the two I confused. There was that one.
I could sort of see that.
I blew that one.
Okay.
There were two country guys I messed up.
That's understandable. They all have there's like 4 names that are spread across. And I just
kept digging.
30 guys.
And in my former life, like people just kind of let me go.
Yeah.
And I was way off. So I can't remember the two country guys. One of them married the lady that cooks on the Food Network.
Was it Toby Keith and Keith Urban?
Not Keith Urban. He's a little guy. This guy was a bigger guy too.
Toby Keith
and somebody. It was him.
Another bigger guy.
And then the other one was Jim Caviezel.
Jesus.
And the dude that played Superman.
Is it Caviezel?
Jim Caviezel. And which dude that played Superman? There's been
Henry.
A bunch of them. Henry Cavill?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, those are very different people.
I mixed up those two.
They have, Cavill, Caviezel, though, I kind of understand, like, in your brain how it would get. I got you. No, I get it.
Did you hear what he said?
My brain does the same thing where it's like, it sounds like that person.
I'm like, no, that was that guy. And it just turned into a bit.
Henry Cavill, Jim Caviezel. I could get how the names get mixed up in your head.
So this idiot, went to this thing where they like do name pronunciations. Yeah. And he just kept playing the two names over. Caviezel.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, I get it.
My brain would make that. My brain would make a similar connection in my head.
Appreciate you.
I got you.
So I've had some debacles.
I did want to
totally
circle back on the Texas thing here with the transfer. So 2 years ago, 2023.
It was Garth Brooks.
That's a tough one.
Cut a guy some slack, man. You never thought MC Hammer looked like Nelly?
Well, they both wear hats.
I have not.
I'm done.
They're both rappers.
Again, this is going to be when I can't win. I'm out.
They both have worn some baggy pants in the day. I don't think MC Hammer's from St. Louis.
I didn't mean to say MC Hammer. I wanted to say Genuine.
Oh, I've definitely never mixed up Genuine.
You would confuse Genuine with Nelly in passing?
Nah, I'm pretty familiar with Nelly. Oh my gosh. Nelly's like in my wheelhouse.
Okay, fine.
Like that's my guy.
It's fine.
You know?
It's fine.
It's hot and so hot and hurt. So Texas.
You want to get back to Texas because you're mad at me that I'm cheering for Texas.
No, I wanted to put some data to our anecdotal idea that Texas doesn't play in the transfer portal to the same degree that some other teams do.
Did I tell you how Schlabach's piece on Notre Dame kind of bugged me?
You did not.
Where I was like, he kind of wrote and he made it. He was like, "Hey, Georgia or Notre Dame with their transfers."
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I don't really and I get it, right? They've got 5 or 6 contributors through the portal, but I don't really consider them a portal built team. Like that wouldn't have been how I started the story.
No, I wouldn't have either.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although he do have to probably start with their quarterback.
Yeah, I mean that is the one thing at Notre Dame that you're like, hey, I need you guys to figure out how to recruit a high school quarterback that ends up being good.
It's funny. We just had that conversation last night.
That's also, ironically enough, the thing that's killed Mike Norvell at Florida State. I mean, you can go all the way back. That dude hasn't figured out a high school quarterback yet. And he gets highly touted ones.
Yeah.
But that's one that you have to get. So Texas 2 years ago only took 4 transfers. They were 48th in the transfer portal rankings. They were good guys, but not super aggressive. Last year, they did take more. They took 12, and they were a highly ranked transfer class. This year, they're at 5, and they're 65th.
Okay.
So they're.
So I feel
somewhat validated
unlike
there.
the last 15 minutes of this show, I feel a little better about what I've said.
Hey, I made you feel better about
No, you can't.
Cabell Caviezel. I helped you out there.
I don't get credit for that.
Why
I
not?
feel better about me because of me.
I helped you out there a little bit.
No.
No. I'll get any credit for being.
No, but
good.
you can say they're riding with Texas with me.
I'm riding with Notre Dame. I'm not riding with Texas.
Obviously, that's my first pick.
Well,
that doesn't even count.
I'm just saying, you're like, hey, we love Texas.
I totally armbarred you, Shano. I totally armbarred you into liking Notre Dame from the jump. You were Mr. Well, they don't play anybody. How are we going to know? The schedule's a little light. I'm like, man, I think this is a good team.
Who you been talking to?
Then you rolled me.
Who'd you been talking to?
After they got beat by Northern Illinois. And I was like, I can't believe one brother's going to cost another brother his job. And you did just like that. You laughed. It was funny. I was kind of being
serious,
but kind of not.
Kind of being serious.
And now it's like, oh, man, I'm riding with Notre Dame.
I've always liked Marcus Freeman. I have. I was not as sure on them early in the year as you were. But I have been.
You not afford. No.
Yeah.
No. No. Go do your own thing.
No, I picked Notre Dame. I picked them.
No, you didn't.
I did when the playoffs started. I picked them.
I can't stand you.
I picked them.
All right, that's fine. I'm cheering. Like that's where that's.
But you're cheering for Texas.
I'm cheering for Texas against Ohio State. I see what you're trying to do. What are you trying to do?
Were you in the locker
room?
Did you
see my 2 friends today?
I did. Who we got? We got Coach Snow.
Yeah.
And then we got old Coach Corso there.
Old Lee
Corso.
Yeah.
The scooter.
Shane, is he not the nicest person in America? That dude is the goat.
Lee Corso?
No. He is the goat.
Oh, yeah, he is.
That truck is sweet too.
I like Les. Les is
when
a good dude.
When I get how you know he wanted you to say his name?
Because Les is a good dude.
Oh, he is a super dude.
We didn't say anything about him. He dropped by.
Yeah, saying hello.
Say hello to our little friends.
He's like, oh man, who's the dude in the Mercedes? I'm leaving.
He said hello to our little friend Shane.
You can't. So you're riding with?
I'm riding with Notre Dame.
Okay, that's fine.
I would not be disappointed. I want Notre Dame to win. I would not be disappointed if Notre Dame or Penn State win.
Anybody else is going to be hard. I'm in. This is total bizarro world. Like I have to cheer for 2 teams I historically have disliked to the nth degree.
I mean, you hate Texas more than anyone.
Yep.
Like they're number 1 on your hate list, right?
That would be correct.
And who?
I'm not even
historically. You don't like Notre Dame?
I don't think it's close
for Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, you told me that's the one you still think about.
Mm-hmm. It's close. Like it elicits. Like I could. I don't even need a finger. I could throw up.
Like it still makes you feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
So who's the second team you hate? Notre Dame?
Not as bad as.
But you historically don't like them.
No. No.
You know, it's weird. So this is dumb. As a kid, I thought they looked cool. Like when I don't know anything, Notre Dame.
Okay.
Like I just thought it was a cool looking team, right? Mm-hmm. And then I weirdly really loved Autry Denson.
Why?
I don't know.
You have a thing for 24?
I don't know. I just liked him. He was
which by the way, I had a random guy tweet at me over something it's funny how a lot of people will respond and like these people don't even follow me. It just has gone through. Yeah. One of them had like 20 some odd thousand views. And I looked at his avatar and it was Freeman McNeil. I was like, man, that Freeman McNeil picture. Shane, do you remember Freeman McNeil?
From the Jets?
Yeah.
Benny and the Jets.
I'm like, that Freeman McNeil picture is sweet. And I don't usually like running backs that have crossbars for their.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. That's why I never.
Guy played in the early 70s and 80s.
That's why I didn't like Thurman Thomas.
Yeah, he was old enough to know better.
Yeah, like what are we doing here, bud?
Yeah,
you a fullback?
Thurman was
What are
old
we
enough,
doing?
but so was Bo. With his sorry self.
Well, you don't got to tell me about Bo.
No, I'm playing. Well, so I legitimately could be cheering for Notre Dame, Texas.
Yeah, that's what I do.
You want to go back to like 1992 Notre Dame, Penn State in this one, or I wish you were on opposite halves of the ledger.
No, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm all right there.
I mean, can you imagine a Penn State Texas game?
I mean, any of these you're going to end up with.
Well, and I'm just telling you, like a lot of people love Notre Dame in this one. Penn State is good.
They are good. They're better than I thought they were.
Penn State is good.
They're definitely better than I thought they were. And I probably didn't give them enough credit early, unlike Notre Dame, who I was on from the start.
Well, you're a hard-headed son of a gun. How do you have any friends?
I don't know.
I mean, just relentless.
I have no idea. I think some people, me and T-Bones have a great time. That's true.
Well, he's the same way.
That's true.
That
No,
guy, he sucks too.
I think a lot of people think I'm kidding when I'm serious, so they just assume I'm not as mean as I am.
Wow.
No, I'm a Marcus Freeman guy. I've been a Marcus Freeman guy. I also like that they
JT went 3 for 3
on what?
My hated teams. He got them in order.
So Texas.
Yep.
Notre Dame.
Nope.
Notre Dame's third.
Nope.
Oh, they're not even in the top 3.
Mm-mm.
Ooh. Well, I don't know now.
Colorado.
Oh, duh. That Miami?
Mm-mm. Arizona State.
Oh, yeah, sure. That makes sense.
In order.
That makes sense.
Miami's never bothered me.
Yeah.
Not at any point in my 50 years.
Because you beat them?
Just the ones. I mean, they own us.
Yeah, but the one that like you were a part of, like you got them.
Yeah. But I mean, look at all the backs they've had that I like.
That's true. You do love a Miami back.
I like some.
You like almost all of them.
That's a lot.
You're a big Clinton Portis guy.
Yes.
Love Clinton Portis.
Love Edgerrin James. I
You
love
love
McGahee.
Edgerrin James is like your all-timer, right?
He's top 3.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird.
It's only 3 in their history, so let's not.
You like big Najee Davenport guy?
No, the dude took a duker in the closet.
Who amongst us has not taken a duker in a closet?
Yeah, I'm not riding with Davenport. He was a Steeler for a little bit too. I was like,
I know that's why he's your guy.
What a creeper.
Which Najee do you like better, Davenport or Harris?
Harris, but I don't want them to re-sign him.
Not a big fan.
I like him.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I just don't
want to pay him.
No, I just don't want him to re-sign him.
I'm trying to think who are the other back. Frank Gore, big Frank Gore guy.
No.
You don't like his style. You don't.
It's okay.
He's not your running style.
He's efficient.
Yeah.
He's closer to Kenny Clark than the others.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge Kenny Clark guy.
What are my other running backs at Miami? Those are all the ones I can think of right now.
Oh, there's.
I know there's a lot, but
big Melvin Bratton guy.
A big Jarrett Payton guy.
Alonzo Highsmith. Payton was. So KP, he's like, I want to see OSU and Penn State play for the championship just to see. I can't say what he said. The hacks of the SEC will react. I don't know. Listen,
that would be funny. Like that's high comedy.
And I know what he's saying too. Like
that's high comedy.
And his personality, he definitely be.
And honestly, that's my biggest thing that I'm rooting against for Texas is
they're not SEC yet, though. You don't have to give in to that.
My SEC is a Ponzi
no. You
scheme.
get to make fun of them for claiming Texas when they didn't want Texas.
That's true. I'm in a win-win here.
Like
the SEC is already.
They get to claim Texas when they tried to make it ridiculously hard on them.
Congrats on claiming your Big 12 champion.
Right. I don't want to see Ohio State, Penn State again though. But I don't either. You very well could. I would like to see Notre Dame. Honestly, my preference would be Notre Dame, Ohio State. That would be what I would want to see. Notre Dame, Ohio State.
That's what I would want to see.
I'm watching regardless.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean,
I know a lot of the games haven't been great.
Most of them have not.
Yeah, most of them not been good. I cannot tell you how excited I've been for each round though. Like I love this. Like
And we get exactly what we deserve because we believe the lie. You believe the lie. Shane believed the lie. 85% of the college football pundits believe the lie.
Which lie is that?
They told you. Man, is this Irish Spring? What kind of am I dial? What soapbox am I about to get on?
You dialed in? Let's get on soapbox. I'm ready.
You guys kept telling me that this was going to be about like advanced socialism, right? Where we're gonna bring up the bottom.
Not in year one.
And we're gonna do this. And no, you know what this thing was for?
Money.
It's to give great teams mulligans when they stub their toe. It's not about Arizona State. It's not about Cincinnati. It's not about Boise.
This is how I know you don't.
It's about Georgia being able to stub their toe and be like Lazarus and rise from the dead. You almost resurrected a horrible Alabama team because they cried their brains out only to get their ass whipped by Michigan in the bowl game. And then it was like, oh, we're not motivated. And I told you, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, we're not up for the bowl game. But then when you beat somebody, it's because you're uber talented.
Yeah.
Oh, they're just better. Like, again, the 3 most overrated things ever in the history of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Excess makeup and nail polish, grass-fed beef, and conference affiliation. In that order.
So this is how I know you don't listen to me when I talk.
I do listen to you.
No, because no one, not me at least. I'm not going to say no one.
I got a 12. I couldn't watch football.
I want it at 16.
It's going to be anarchy.
I love anarchy. Let's do it. I'm a big Fight Club guy. No, the
Breakfast Club.
Different club. I do like breakfast, though.
The banner year at the Lulla household for Christmas.
The thing I said.
You know what this is?
What's that?
You know what this is? It's about the size of a cigarette burn. It's what you get at the old Bender house.
What are you doing that for?
Because it's another banner year.
Hey, does Barry Manilow know you rate his wardrobe?
You've
never seen the Breakfast Club?
It's been like 20 years.
Oh my God. Get off of this.
I'm not like a big like 80s like was it like John Hughes movies guy.
I don't even know who that is.
I think he's the director.
Is he the white guy that played the mailman in Boys in the Hood?
No, that's Lean on Me.
It's John Singleton. Who's John Hughes?
I believe
he's an 80s director.
I believe he directed all those movies.
That's cool. Okay.
He did The Breakfast Club, he did 16 Candles, he did like all those like 80s
think
movies.
He'd be cheering for Notre Dame?
I don't know. He's from New York.
You did. You're like, oh man, and in Cincinnati,
no,
and it's gonna be more attractive.
Listen. Here's what I compared it to.
This dude went low.
No,
I believe you. I don't.
Linda?
Hey, Linda, I need you to listen, bud.
I don't think he's cheering for
and
anybody.
he's finger pointing at me. Now it's getting ready to get hectic.
John Hughes, dead or alive?
You
don't know who he is, so it helps.
I'm going with dead. An 80s director?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm safe as a kid.
He died. Well, he died
Dude,
early.
that was 40 years ago.
Yeah, he died early, though. He was only 59 when he died.
Well, I had plenty of
R.I.P.
wiggle room.
A lot of wiggle room. 2009, he died. You had a lot of wiggle room there.
Yeah. Not as bad as blowing Wilt Chamberlain.
Here.
I forgot.
You're in good company there.
Did you know Wilt?
With not knowing he was dead, I mean. I think a lot of people forgot about that.
Not my friend.
Hello, friend.
Wow.
A lot of people forget.
Wow. Really?
A lot of people forget.
Okay.
A lot of people forget that Wilt Chamberlain is no longer with us.
Okay.
He died young.
I see where we're
unfortunately. He died young. How old was Wilt Chamberlain when he passed?
Well played.
It was about 2000.
Was it that long ago?
It was a long time ago.
99. Good call. Yeah, he was only 63. He could very well still be with us. Bill Russell lasted much longer.
Nah, man, we're not just moving on for that. You know exactly what you did. Good company.
A lot of people forget that Wilt Chamberlain's no longer with us. That's what I meant. You're in good company. Here's what I said about the playoff. You don't listen. I need you to listen, Linda.
I may shut it down.
You can't just like open doors for me and be like, Ravi, don't walk through.
It's fine. For the record, I'm exit only. Just saying.
I feel like you're about to exit the stage here in a minute.
Wow. This dude.
Exit stage left.
That was the first thing you thought of?
Yes.
It's freaking bad.
Immediately.
Your stupid joke, Tourette's.
A lot of people don't remember that Will Chamberlain's passed. It's been 25 years now. It's a long time. A little longer, actually.
How are the Kentuckys and the Mississippi States of the world doing in that conference?
Not great. Vanderbilt is better than some of those, which is funny because it's Vanderbilt. But also, here's what I said about the playoff. I've been trying to get to this for a minute now. You keep distracting me.
That one's going to leave a mark, though. It's fine.
What I said is long-term, it will give opportunities to people that deserve it. That but it's not going to raise the floor of those teams in year one because you need that exposure and the money that comes from the playoff to elevate your program the same way they do in the NCAA tournament.
So what's the Big Ten splitting? 14 mil?
Yeah, it doesn't do as much for the Big Ten. 14 mil out of the Big Ten pot doesn't mean that much. But if you win a couple games as a game as a Boise State or an Arizona State or anyone from not the Big Ten or SEC, then that money means a lot more. It's a much larger percentage of your pie, right? That's the same thing. That's why I always compare it to a Gonzaga, right? You're not going to have, most years, Loyola Marymount or St. Mary's or whoever isn't going to be able to elevate. But you're going to have the opportunity.
Why do you go to the basketball analogy?
Because Gonzaga's never won a national championship.
Here's the
deal,
they're
though, still
the number. It's apples to oranges, though, with the numbers that can turn a program around. It's fictitious.
I understand it is much harder because of that. And we can actually get to that question here in a second because somebody brought it up yesterday with basketball versus football and turning programs around.
That was Ken. That was
Ken.
Ken E.
Ken E. Not Kenny?
No, just Ken.
Ken space
E.
E.
Yes.
Not Kenny.
Correct.
Okay, I'm glad we figured that out.
Bastards.
You killed Kenny. You sound like you're on Charlie Brown now. Wah, wah, wah.
Don't get me started.
You're the teacher on Charlie Brown. I knew you were a fan. No, I think long-term you'll have opportunities for those teams that are able to consistently make the playoff as these group of 5 schools. They will have opportunities to elevate. I'm not saying they will, but they will at least have the opportunity. I wanted the opportunity. That's all.
Who are said schools?
I think Boise's one of those schools.
Por ejemplo.
I think a lot of the Big 12 schools are going to end up in kind of that neighborhood. I know UCF is a Big 12 school now. They're a power conference school now. UCF is a lot more like Boise State than they are Texas, right? I know Texas is not in the Big 12 anymore, but they're a lot closer to Boise State than they are an SEC school or a Big 10 school. They just are, right? So even though you've got all these teams in whatever the new Pac-12 is going to be and the Big 12 and to a lesser extent the ACC, a lot of these teams need those opportunities in order to have a chance to elevate their program. Otherwise, we just need to split it off entirely. To me, those are the two options. If you want to go play super big boy football over in this league on your own with 40 teams or whatever, cool. But if you're going to pretend like it's all one division, you better have an opportunity for the teams that aren't from the SEC and the Big Ten. That's all I wanted. And every once in a while, we're going to have
sounds pretty myopic.
And every once in a while, we're going to have a great game like Arizona State and Texas. And every once in a while, every once in a while,
Steelers, Cardinals, misnomer. That was not a great game. It was a great 9 minutes.
Every once in a while, Arizona State's going to win that game.
24-6, you were like, this is awful. They have no business being here.
I had a great time the entire time. Team Scataboo, baby. That's DB.
Not one of your stellar moments.
I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We're brought to you by our friends at Centris Federal Credit Union. I'll get that right one of these days. But I know the saying is new year, new me, but have you considered new year, new financials? At Centris Federal Credit Union, you've got the opportunities to make a switch financially, and they've got you covered. It may be the right choice for you. It's a local credit union focused on helping people, whether that's at one of their 15 branches across the area. They serve the community. That's Centris Federal Credit Union. DB.
You know who's the happiest about Centris?
Who's that?
My barber.
Yeah?
Big Centris
Big
guy.
Centris guy?
Yes.
I've met your barber. Good guy.
He's amazing.
Seems like a good dude. I mean,
he's negotiating a new lease.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of critical.
Yeah, you got to get that worked out.
Yeah. Get locked in.
Lock it in.
Locked in because I like the location.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's done so much to that shop.
Yeah, you've been going there for a while.
Yeah.
Hot minute?
Yeah, same guy, 30 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
So, El Guapo, we want to fact check?
Yes.
Texas plays so many more transfer portal guys than Ohio State.
Yeah, so I don't believe that's true. Here's what I will say, El Guapo. The pattern of Ohio State's transfer guys and Texas's is pretty similar. So I went through Texas 2 years ago, small portal class. Last year, bigger class, highly ranked. This year, small portal class. Ohio State has followed a pretty similar trajectory. Looking up on the depth charts, I don't think it's accurate that Texas plays so many more portal guys than Ohio State.
I don't know about so many more, but anecdotally, I would say at first blush, Texas plays more portal guys.
You think so?
Anecdotally.
I would guess it.
But the point
similar,
is, but the point is for my man El Guapo, which means anyway.
I mean, literal translation is the handsome.
The handsome, yeah. I was gonna say the good looking, but it sounded weird.
Yeah, it's all right.
Whatever. Like I'm insecure given that this day is gone. I still mad at you though. Don't act like I'm gonna let that ride.
I thought we were cool.
No, we're not. I don't mean necessarily like literally more or less portal guys. I think my premise is Ohio State gets the of having the $20 million roster. That's the number that people throw out there, and the best roster ever assembled, and they say things like that. So in my head, yours was like they're on their fourth string running back. Like I look at, and this isn't like woe is me, Texas, because they recruit at a pretty high level, but I look at it as more the perception of how the programs have been built.
Yeah, so I think there's,
but I get, I mean, my man, the handsome could be saying, I mean, but literally though, DB, like, Ohio State has fewer portal guys.
So the way I think about it is,
you're gonna boil it down to quarterback.
No,
Texas recruited. He's a high school quarterback. When yours?
He was also a transfer that we forget. The thing that I would compare it to is
was recruited by Texas.
He went to Ohio State first.
Oh yeah, you're talking about like when he had long hair, like as a junior. Yeah.
So
he was sitting out a year. He hadn't been.
But he was technically at Ohio State and transferred.
Sure.
I don't really count it either, but like technically he is a transfer. That is what people.
Before you get to college.
I mean, he was enrolled in college at Ohio State.
Yeah. I'll give it.
Technically speaking, he is a transfer.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody ever thought he was going to play for Ohio State. It all seemed like he couldn't earn money in Texas as a senior, so he reclassified, went to Ohio State, did that whole thing. But the way I kind of remember, or the way I look at it is, you remember in like the mid to late 2000s when the Yankees kind of got away from their homegrown talent and started trying to buy the roster again. Like, they're trying to acquire A-Rod, and they're going out and they're buying pitchers, and they're bringing in Mussina and Kevin Brown and all these guys. That sort of feels like Ohio State. And then the Red Sox had just as many free agents as the Yankees did, but it didn't feel like they bought their roster. Like, you know what I mean? Like, literally, like it was probably a 1-for-1.
Yeah.
Just as many guys homegrown versus free agents. But it felt like the Yankees were buying a roster, and it felt like the Red Sox had put together a team.
Yeah, not to go all Dodgers, but I was very adamant about when the Dodgers won their COVID title that 90% of that roster was homegrown.
Yeah. And that's, I think, part of the reason you didn't love the Ohtani signing. I think that's part of the reason you haven't loved some of those moves is it feels like you're just buying a roster. That's how it feels. Even if the perception and the reality are probably closer to being the same, that's how it feels with Texas versus Ohio State for me. I know you wanted to talk a little college basketball.
I've been trying
too. People have been distracting us with
no
college football talk.
My buddy gets so mad. He's like impatient. He like wants to. Do you know how long this show is? Like, we got time. I don't want to call him out because he's my dude.
I understand that.
He's like, hey man, talk about basketball tonight. I've been trying.
We're here every day. We're here every day. We will get to it.
Just a day, just
another.
I worked hard at school.
Just
I get to watch a
day.
lot of guys tonight that I've watched in high school. Bryson, Peyton, Sandiford.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Josh Dix from right down the road. I've watched
Council
Dix.
Bluffs.
Yeah, I've watched Dix since he's been like 8 years old.
He was a good ball player over.
Yeah, came
at,
back from a devastating
Abe Lincoln, right?
Leg injury too.
That's my guy Jason Isaacson's over there.
Yeah,
that coach over there.
Coach.
Good coach, good dude.
Yeah, good coach.
I've known Jason for a long time.
Yeah, long time rumored to be a T-bird before the great Coach Klein.
Yeah. He's a good coach. You could do a lot worse than
he's good. We used to we spent a lot of time in their holiday, like AL would put together a deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was well done.
It
was well done.
He also used to run, I don't know if he still does, but he used to run the summer league that Creighton used to play in every year.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my favorites. I love those.
So I think this one is critical.
Nebraska, Iowa?
Because I asked the question yesterday and you poo-pooed it.
That doesn't sound like me.
It does. It absolutely does. Do you feel like you kind of know who this Nebraska team is, right?
I think I have an okay
You kind of
feel.
know what you're getting?
I think so.
Are they to the point where we can extrapolate?
Ooh, good question. I don't know.
Well, if you know what you're getting, you think yes.
Yes, you should. It should be yes. I don't know if it's a.
We still don't quite trust it.
Yeah, don't totally trust it.
Or it's still a little too early.
It's probably not too early. I mean, we're halfway through the season.
Yeah, but this is early for the Nebraska Love Fest.
It is. And it's early in the conference season, so I think that has something to do with it still. But I think a lot of it is I have kind of an inherent distrust of Nebraska basketball because it seems like even when they're good.
But this is how they play, though.
Yes.
So we're not counting on a Tominaga heater.
No,
we're not talking about Petaway carrying a team. We're not talking about Will Siobhan Shield. I think this is different.
What I don't trust, though, is historically, whether it's under Hoiberg or Miles or Sadler, or go all the way back. Even when they're good, it feels like it's hard to trust them in certain moments.
Yeah, but see the dirty.
And that's a me problem.
I know, because the dirty little secret is they've been good for a while.
Yeah.
Who read me this? Was it Micah? Somebody read me the stat yesterday. No, it was Caleb. About since 2023, because I was talking about their record at PBA.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was talking about how their winning percentage. I think he must have read it off social media because he was at the table about their record since the second half of the 2022-23 season. They kind of caught lightning in a bottle
at the end of that year.
Then last year,
yeah, and then this year,
yeah. So, they've been good,
yeah,
for a while. We just don't say it like that.
Well, here's where I have a problem. And this is, again, it's a me problem. I understand that. But I'll start to trust them. I'll be like, okay, I think I know who this team is. I think they can play a certain way. I think they will play a certain way. And I know this happens to every college basketball team, which is why it's a me problem. Then you have like a Michigan State where you're like, what even happened there?
Yeah, so far that's the anomaly.
Yeah, right? Because like St. Mary's, it's like that's a good team. It's a 3-point loss, not a big deal. Right? But I look, I'm like, they didn't even show up.
That was at the Pentagon, right?
I think
St. Mary's?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say Michigan State was at Michigan State. But I get its first Big Ten game, but I sit there and I go,
I want to get into this.
What do I do with that?
I got some guys that feel like this is not a good matchup. And I'm
for Nebraska?
Yeah. I'm not so sure.
We'll have to get into that here in a little bit. But next, we're going to talk to Mike Gross about those Penn State Nittany Lions we were talking about earlier.
We will be back. be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
And there we go, near side to the 10 to the 5, touchdown, Penn State, K-Tron Allen, Penn State puts together a 75-yard drive, and now have a 3-score lead in the first half. Steps away, looks downfield, throws upfield, intercepted, 45, Tony Rojas to the 50, Rojas to the 45, Rojas to the 40, 30, Rojas to the far side to the 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Penn State, Tony Rojas.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We are joined now by Mike Gross of Lancaster Online to talk about Penn State. Mike, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Good. Mike, this is interesting now because the last time we talked to you, we kind of joked about this question about the real Penn State as it relates to the statistics from quarterback play, and I kind of still feel like it's a question, but it matters a little less. How have we gotten over the fact that it may not look the way that we want it to, but it sure is effective for this Penn State bunch?
Well, they still haven't beaten a great team. They still don't have an elite win, and some of that is the way the bracketing worked out in the college football playoff. But I think what you're alluding to there is, I think the last step for Penn State to truly be, a legitimate national championship caliber team is that ability to push the ball down the field vertically in the passing game. However much you want to blame Drew Aller or the wide receiver group, I think most people tend to blame the wide receiver group a little more. That's sort of the next step. And even though, it's impressive to be in the National Final Four, there's no question about that. Unqualified, that's a big deal. But I still think that they have that step to go, and it's going to be difficult to take that step against the back end of Notre Dame's defense, I think.
Yeah, Mike, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question. Was it's not like they get a super easy matchup trying to push the ball down the field against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We saw all the issues Georgia had trying to score against that Notre Dame back end. I guess, is that your biggest concern against Notre Dame, is just the Penn State wide receivers against the Notre Dame secondary?
Yeah, I thought if I was sort of bullish on the wide receivers in that matchup, I think I would be picking Penn State to win the game, which I'm not. But I think that Penn State has four games in a row now. They've run the ball very effectively against pretty good teams. I mean, SMU was the 4th-ranked rush defense in the country. So that piece of it, their offensive line, and I think the good health of both Nick Singleton and Katron Allen play into that. So they are going to be able to. I think they're going to be able to run the ball okay. Although this is the best defense they've played probably since Ohio State. But the other piece is getting it down the field vertically a little bit. And we know about Tyler Warren. He's sort of the ultimate wild card factor in all of this. But getting the ball down the field and Notre Dame does an amazing job. I don't know if this is a repeatable thing, but they could do an amazing job of A, forcing turnovers, and B, getting big plays out of special teams. So they, Riley Leonard could be the offensive player of the game in their last game, and he threw for 90 yards.
Mike, when can we move on? Or maybe you guys have, but
I have a feeling I know where you're going.
When can we move on from this whole thing about James Franklin and big games or ranked opponents or good is it going back to your original comment about maybe not a signature win, but maybe a game, a benchmark game like this? He wins so stinking much. When can we move on from whatever the stigma is that's attached when we rank him in the pantheon of coaching prowess?
Well, we can move on at about 11 o'clock on Thursday night.
Interesting.
Gotcha. That's when it'll happen. I mean, nothing has, even though they've gotten this far, nothing has happened to really change that narrative. If you think about it, they have 2 wins in the college football playoff. Both of them, if they had lost, it would have refired up the chorus of fire James Franklin. So that's where we are until they beat an elite team with high stakes. I do think there's a lot to be said for winning the games you're supposed to win very, very, very consistently, which they have done under Franklin. And look around the country this year and think about the teams that were not able to do that. So that is a big deal. But again, it's not going to go away until, the next opportunity happens on Thursday night.
So, Mike, you mentioned had they lost either to SMU or Boise State, obviously things would have gotten really noisy for James Franklin again. What happens if they lose to Notre Dame? Obviously, if they win, that is it's a big swing the other direction. But what happens if they lose to a team that is viewed more like Ohio State than a Boise or an SMU is?
Right. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I think that all but the people who are on the extreme anti-James end of the spectrum, all but those people will be reasonably satisfied with this season, having gotten to the Final Four. But you're still going to hear the same thing. You're still going to hear here's an interesting thing. I looked this up the other day. This is James Franklin's 11th season. Through 11 seasons, Joe Paterno was 1-8 against the top 5, and that was a win against then third-ranked NC State in 1967, which they ended up finishing 17th, not in the top 5. So this notion of beating top 5 teams, well, I mean, nobody does it on a consistent basis. It's a little bit harsh, but that's where we are.
Mike, it's interesting. I think people kind of look at the 304 that Boise threw forward, playing from behind and no Carter. And, okay, so whatever with the pass rush. But I want to flip it around the other way. You mentioned Warren early. If Penn State is going to have success and Drew's going to continue to take care of the ball, who's the next most important receiver that isn't coming out of the backfield, not named Warren?
Right, yeah. I think it's probably Harrison Wallace. They call it Trey Wallace. He's been their best receiver all year. Another guy I would throw in there is that they have a guy named Amari Evans. He had a long time.
Yeah, he had the big one. Yeah.
Yeah. He is a guy who they say he's got the superpower, which is pure speed. I mean, he's almost like a track guy who's just starting to figure out football right now. And he has not had, real productive like multi-catch games, but once in a while he'll have a play like he did in that Boise State game. He is a threat to get behind the defense. Obviously, that's going to be more difficult to do against the Irish than it was against Boise.
We're talking to Mike Gross of Lancaster Online. Mike, as you look at this Penn State team, not to fast forward past this week at all, but as you look at this team, how do you think they're set up moving forward? Like in the context of James Franklin and his career at Penn State, does this feel like if he doesn't get it now, then we might be waiting a couple more years for another crack at this? Or does it feel like, hey, they're ready to roll this thing back again if they don't get past Notre Dame?
Well, I think they're ready to roll this back again in the sense that it's now a playoff sport. It's now a tournament sport. They have an excellent chance to get in the tournament. And in the current moment where it seems like there's a little more parity than there's been for a while, if you can figure if you can get in the tournament, you got a chance. The opposite argument I would say is that this recruiting class of 2022, which are now in their third year, which is Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, Abdul Carter, et cetera, it's one of the best in the country. They're not going to have all of those guys after this year. This is almost certainly Abdul Carter's last game, even if he's healthy. This group's going to break up a little bit, and this was an outstanding group who I do think made the next step this year, particularly in Aller's case, in the third year, where he's really made a step in terms of just knowing how to be a college quarterback. So that piece that they have right now is going to be tough to replace.
Mike, it's interesting because Carter gets all the headlines, and it's ultimately who my question's about. But I get it with Sutton and Thomas and Durant and Vanover. That front four is tough, and you played 3/4 of that game without Carter. I don't ever want to understate the impact, but how much of that is kind of like a blessing in disguise to show that there is a high level of functionality without Carter, knowing you could probably get a healthy Carter back, healthier.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And they certainly defensive end is a real strength. And you mentioned Vanover. I thought he had a really
he's incredible
against Boise. You talk about setting the edge, man. He was a key to that Ashton Genty thing, keeping him under. And I thought that Dennis Sutton, who by the way is in that same recruiting class and was a higher level recruit than Abdul Carter was. He was a 5-star. But anyway, I thought he had an excellent game. They got a lot of dudes on defense, and maybe if you take Carter out of the equation, it's a game planning thing because the other team is devoting some game planning and prep time to finding where he is all the time. And now maybe you take that element away a little bit. But yeah, they're good. They're good up front. Penn State has a good defense. Penn State has, I think, a top 5 defense. I think Notre Dame does too. I think both of these teams, their defenses are a little ahead of their offenses.
Bill, you like the fact they're built to stop QB run game?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you like the fact that they're built to stop QB run game?
Yeah. I think that's a good point. And with SMU's quarterback, I thought they were more of like a contain type thing rather than attack. So it'll be interesting to see if they do the same thing with Leonard. But yeah, he's a heck of an athlete. He's really he manages to impact the game even when he's not exactly Joe Burrow. But so that may have been an understatement I came up with there. But he's. I think Penn State is pretty well suited to defend Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame is pretty well suited to defend Penn State, to be honest.
It's Mike Gross, Lancaster Online. Mike, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, fellas. Always a pleasure.
We'll have Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7 coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, Campawar, and Lincoln, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB, just doing a little dance up on the stage here. not a big deal. And I'm Ravi Lulla. We are waiting on our friend Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. He's up.
Which is weird because he's tweeting at us.
He's up and tweeting, so we know he's around. We're just waiting for him to get logged in. Maybe he's
just hanging around.
Big Counting Crows guy.
Nope.
You seem like you're singing their songs.
No, it's just sometimes it just
happens. I've got joke Tourette's. You've got music Tourette's.
Yeah, 100%.
You hear like a line from a song,
100%,
and you're in it.
Yeah,
it's all right. I like it.
Kind of like random, Wilt Chamberlain pot shots.
I forgot he was dead. Honestly, I did.
No.
He was 63. He'd be 87 today. 88.
Mike's in.
Something like that.
It's
something like that, Ravi.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. We got Mike Schaefer joining us from Husker 24/7. Schaefer, what's going on, man?
Not a ton. How are we doing today?
How we doing, bud? We doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing quite well. We'll just not have to talk about that Sunday night fiasco and move on to feeling incredibly nervous about Monday night, and then the season ends and you got 2 losses to the Rams and 2 losses to the Lions, and you won 14 games, and that'll be great.
If you look at the bright side, though, then that only means there's 2 teams in the league that are better than you. So that's not bad.
Something like that.
I'm not going to dwell on the Vikings, but I do have kind of one thing. Do you feel like if they either would have ran the ball a little more or caught the ball better early, that they could have helped Darnold get off the schneid?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think he was particularly helped by a lot of things on that game on Sunday night. He didn't play well, so you got to start with that. Like, he's the one throwing the ball high. At the same time, the interior of the offensive line got its butts kicked in a way that, quarterbacks pressure up the middle kills quarterbacks more than anything else. And if you go back and you watch that game, all of the stunts, all of the stuff that they're doing with the interior defensive line, the linebackers, and where they're bringing all of that pressure, it's almost always up the middle, because Minnesota's offensive line is worse up the middle than they are on the edge. And they really got to Darnold that way. And then Jefferson normally catches that touchdown pass. TJ Hawkinson alligator armed the 3rd and 17 because I think he remembered getting his knee blown out by the same dirty Lions defense the year before. They didn't play well. Like, the whole team did not play well. The defense, I think, did as well as you could expect for 3.5 quarters. Who knows what happens if Van Ginkel picks off another screen pass for his 3rd interception return for a touchdown this year. He nearly had that one. But, yeah, I think they needed to give Sam Darnold some help. I think they could have used Aaron Jones in the red zone inside the 10-yard line a little bit more. I think they could have done a few things, but they played tight. They look like a team that played tight. I think they're a lot better than that team. And if they go handle the Rams, maybe they get another opportunity at the Lions again. The bigger concern I have is that game flow, the way your defense played. I don't know that you're going to get that again, and you didn't take advantage of it. I mean, they had a chance to really jump on the Lions, and they didn't do it. And I just don't know if you're going to get that again. But that's why they play the game, so we'll see how that goes.
Schaefer, we're just starting to preview Nebraska, Iowa tonight, and I got a couple buddies. One he's similar to yourself. He's all in on almost every Nebraska sport there is, but in particular basketball. Doesn't love the matchup. I'm trying to convince him otherwise. We were reading some of the stats, right? You saw Ben Stevens' tweet yesterday that even got Caleb's attention at the dinner table yesterday, talking about Nebraska basketball turnaround. I asked Ravi earlier, are you confident enough? And you're a fan, so you're perfect to ask. Are you confident enough where you could forecast this Nebraska team in terms of, well, they should do this or they can do this without the fear of like the old Charlie Brown trick?
No, I don't know that anyone is quite confident enough or should be quite confident enough where you're forecasting. And I think the Big Ten is tough enough where forecasting is kind of a fool.
It's apparently drunk early on. It is.
It is a tough conference. Like, you don't get off nights. You don't get to just like cruise into a game, put up 70 points, and you're going to get a win because you're playing the Big Ten of 2017 or whatever it is. I mean, it's just a different It's a different conference. I think every game is kind of going to be its own challenge. But what I like about this team and why I think that maybe compared to last year, where I think they were significantly better offensively overall, but I felt like they had to sort of have a certain game flow last year. I think this team can adjust a little bit differently. We'll find out. You're going to play an Iowa team that's going to score. Even when you play really good defense, they're going to score. Can Nebraska score with them? I think they can, because Iowa doesn't play great defense. I think they have ways that they can attack you. It comes down to or ways that Nebraska can attack them. It comes down to being able to make open shots. Connor Essegian had multiple open shots on Saturday, didn't make. Other Nebraska players had open shots they didn't make. So, if Iowa's defense is allowing you to shoot 60% from the field, you're going to go have success. So it's a matter of, can they adjust to the different game flow? And I do feel like this team, more than last year's, is capable of doing that. I don't necessarily think that this is a better team than last year. I just think that the way that they are built allows them to play in a different style of Big Ten game and maybe be comfortable in more rock fights than last year's team, without the rim protection, without the rebounding. It's just a different style, different build. I honestly think we haven't given Fred Hoiberg enough credit for how good he is doing as a coach, for his adjustment from where he was at and what he wanted this to be, to how he has sort of adjusted to the assistant coaches that he's hired, to the players that he pulled out of the portal. Go back to early November and how people talked about this team, and then how people are talking about it now, how people talked about an Andrew Morgan and what his value is to him now. So if anything, I have a lot of trust in that coaching staff that they're going to be able to get those guys ready to go. And they got a lot of guys that are just sort of junkyard players. Like, they don't, I think they have the personality of Joanne Gary, where they don't really care how it looks, and they just are excited to scrap and fight. And I think it's a big part of how they're going to be carried this year. And I think it's why they're going to be more successful than we would have maybe guessed at the beginning of the year.
I guess so. And I asked the question just because Coach Hoiberg is trending in this staff since February 1, right? The 71% win percentage. Well, and as you kind of alluded to, there's still the trepidation to say, well, hey, over the next 4, they got to go 2-2. Like, we do that in football all the time, right? I mean, these next 4, but we're very reluctant in basketball, even though, we have a year's worth of data, and it's pretty consistent. And Schaefer, this year, you have so many guys that don't have to shoulder the load. You don't need. I mean, we just watched Essegian and Bryce go 2 of 18 combined, and UCLA wasn't in that game the final 6-7 minutes. You didn't feel, right? So sometimes it's Morgan as the glue guy. Sometimes it's Hoiberg. Sometimes it's Gary. But they're always consistent in the ability to defend. And yet we're kind of still reluctant, even though it sounds like, even in your just description, what you're getting with this basketball team.
Well, I think you know what you're getting, but it's also because you can't trust the level of offensive play. It's really hard in a conference like this to just be like, yeah, you're going to rip off 3 out of the next 4 if you don't know if they have the ability to get to 75 points or not. That's
that's what makes Iowa tricky, right? Because even though they're leaky,
I think Iowa is a tough matchup coming off of a win like this, and we saw the exact same thing. Nebraska beat the number 1 team. I'm almost sure of this. They beat the number 1 team in the country last year in Purdue. Had to go on the road to play Iowa. Couldn't score. Couldn't make open threes. Lost the game. I don't want to. I think Nebraska should be able to win tonight. I think if you were going to pick which of these teams has a better chance of being successful on balance in the entirety of a season, I think it's Nebraska. In a 1-game scenario on the road for a team that hasn't played a lot of road games and doesn't play on the road particularly well, because playing on the road in the Big Ten is really hard, it's hard to project for me that they're going to win. I think this is a fascinating game because I think it's going to tell you a lot about the heart of that team, and it's going to test that theory that I have that they're versatile. It wouldn't shock me at all if they go and score a bunch of points tonight, because Iowa doesn't play great defense. And I think Fred Hoiberg can coach offense really well. He's just got a defensive first team at the moment, partly because of what they are. Also, before I forget, the Connor Essegian plus 20 while being 0 of 6 from the floor is just an amazing stat.
It is.
Like that is truly amazing. He played good defense for a guy who didn't contribute.
Who's offline defensively.
He jumped multiple passes. He did well.
Can we stop for a second?
Oh boy.
Oh, sorry, Creighton guy's upset.
No, because I'm actually going to use the Creighton guy as an example here as to why the plus 20 is sometimes a little bit of a misnomer. Plus minus in a single game sample size can be very misleading.
Understood.
This happened with Mason Miller, who I don't think has been playing particularly well for Creighton, and he was plus 15 the other night without doing literally anything. I don't think he had one rebound the entire game, right?
I think if you put on the tape of the UCLA game and just watch Essegian on defense, it wouldn't be literally anything.
I understand Essegian was playing well. I just the plus 20. I get a little bit bristled up about single game plus minuses. Schaefer, that's
fair enough.
You hit a sensitive spot there for me on single game plus minuses.
Schaefer, I'm gonna take advantage of the fact you got strong opinions always. It is. We went through this deal anecdotally about comparing playoff expansion to basketball and why it's kind of a bad example. And Ravi did this super deep dive into like 6 seeds and lower and not versus non-blue bloods making runs. And it's an amazingly low percentage. We talk about UCLA as like this fictitious thing where number one, I'm not necessarily are they a blue blood, but when you look at like UCLA and under Cronin and kind of how his team just historically can't score. Like, how do you view UCLA as a program?
I mean, I can't speak for how everyone else does. And I'm going to go to the sort of the emotional side of this. Like, it was a big deal to me to see UCLA playing on Nebraska's court on Saturday, obviously in the context of a conference game. But when you grow up watching Nebraska basketball, and when you watch all of these non-conference matchups, and when Nebraska gets their draw for the Big Ten ACC Challenge, and it's the same Clemson, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Boston College, Virginia Tech, Miami, and you never get to see like the good teams come to Lincoln. Growing up, like UCLA won one of the first national titles of my life. Like I remember them winning that national title.
95.
UCLA has been in the Final Four. UCLA has played for championships. You can name great collegiate players that became great NBA players. They were just recently one of the more fun stories when they made their run from Dayton to the Final Four, losing on the Suggs, half quarter against Gonzaga. So like UCLA is just a name brand team for me in basketball. And so to get to see that in Lincoln, which the only other real times have been, and they're all conference games, but it's been Kansas, kind of Indiana, Michigan State is a name brand team. Like it is a cool deal to me. I don't know how everybody else perceives it because UCLA basketball has been sort of, below the rung of a lot of the other kind of great blue blood teams, but it's still a jersey that you just never expected to see playing in Lincoln, Nebraska. So for them to be there, to be a ranked team and to get a win, like it's a huge deal. I get that Mick Cronin and his style doesn't reflect what you think of UCLA basketball necessarily. But I mean, they were just recently a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Like this is not a program where it's like a fly by night operation. Like I think Mick Cronin's a good coach. I just think stylistically you're getting Cincinnati basketball in a UCLA uniform. Like that's hard for people.
I was hoping if I were you, Schaefer, if I could have just been like doing your strings and kind of being a ventriloquist, I would have been like, that Mason Miller reference is so spot on, even though it's not, because we heard Coach Mack say, Schaefer, that because they chose to guard Mason Miller like a shooter, it opened up so much space on the floor. Conversely, the way they stayed attached to Essegian, and I mean literally attached, allowed Nebraska more space on the floor. Like those things matter, even though they don't show up statistically in the stat sheet. That's what I would say.
Well, I have a tough time separating Mason Miller, the Creighton basketball player, with the only good player on the A's in the pitching. So that's part of the problem.
An hour of him,
I love that Mason
Every time that comes up, I'm just thinking of pitching ninja on Twitter right now. So, I've got that going. But I actually thought what UCLA did in their perimeter defense against Bryce Williams in particular, like he looked as uncomfortable as he's going to get, which I still think is the key to how you can slow down Nebraska if you play him. If you play tight man defense on Bryce Williams, he's going to pass the ball off.
Would put it on the so I'm with you. I wish he would put it on the deck just a little more.
I think that's the shortcoming of his, like, this is where when I tell people I want him to have 10% more Turan Petaway, that's kind of what I mean. You're late in the shot clock, there's 6 seconds left, and you just toss it to Raleigh Wooster with 1:30 left in the game, and then the ball ends up in Hoiberg. Yeah, the ball ends up in Hoiberg's hands in the corner with half a second left. Like, that's not what I want from Bryce Williams. Like, I kind of need that guy of 1.5 minutes left. Game's still in the balance. You got to put that on the floor. You got to get to the hole. You got to try to force contact. You got to do something. Like, that's your game. That's your basketball. I didn't love that.
Are you surprised, or is it about right that Iowa's just a 4-point? I say just. It seems like a pretty snug line that just a 4-point fave.
I think that's probably in line. Like it's the thing that's always sort of precarious about this is Nebraska doesn't tend to lose by just 4 if they're going to Iowa. Like it's, like when they lose to Iowa at Iowa, it is a large number generally.
That's not funny, but it's spot on.
It's a little funny.
It's spot on.
We're talking with Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. Schaefer, let's switch gears to football here for the last few minutes. Obviously, a lot of activity going on in the transfer portal, both to and from Nebraska. I want to start with a couple predictions that were made that a big offensive tackle from Alabama is predicted to go to Nebraska. Do you like where Nebraska's at there? And
Pritchett?
Yeah, with Pritchett from Alabama. And do you think that is the final piece they need to kind of fill the holes in this transfer class?
Yeah, I mean, cards completely on the table. I don't have a lot of connection into Pritchett, and we haven't been hearing a lot on that. So that would definitely be just going off of what the online vibes are. And when people are putting in the crystal ball predictions at this point, it's usually coming with the insurance of what's going to happen. So it does feel like Nebraska is a pretty heavy favorite here for the Alabama tackle. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I've watched Elijah Pritchett play, so I'm not going to give you a big breakdown of what he's done well and everything else. I know that Pro Football Focus dinged him really hard. He played a lot as a young guy. So I you're getting, if he ends up at Nebraska, you're getting someone that has experience at an area where you're lacking in experience. So you're creating some competition there, and you're allowing for the addition of an offensive lineman to kind of help, push where you're at with a Grant Branks and a Brock Knutson, and what you're going to do with a Gunnar Gatula and what that tackle picture looks like. I just think, I think even bigger than what happens in the transfer portal for Nebraska's offensive line is still very much the internal development of where those guys are at as you get through spring ball, where some of the offensive linemen, especially some of the in-state kids, where some of these guys are, within the program, are they going to be able to help you if you have an injury or two? Are they going to be pushing a guy like this if he were to come into the program? So I think a lot of it for me, it'd be great to add an offensive lineman out of the transfer portal. Nebraska clearly wants to. I still think the bigger thing with the offensive line is what happens in internal development. Like, I just think that's the bigger piece of all of this. Like their high school recruiting of the offensive line, how Raiola and staff are able to develop those guys, how Holgorsen calls the offense to maximize what they do well. All of that is just a bigger deal to me than what happens in the portal, because I just think offensive line recruiting in the portal is, you either get a stud, or, for the lack of, and I apologize for using this player specifically, or you're getting a Hunter Anthony. You're not necessarily, like, you're not.
Well, nice pull.
There's really not a lot in between there. You know what I mean, though? Like, offensive line portal recruiting is way more difficult than just like, oh, they can't close. No, it's not that they can't close. Everybody wants players in the trenches. It is really, really elbows out, and it is a fight. And it's why you see some of the same teams. Obviously, losing the kid to his coaching staff that went from Washington State to Wake Forest is unique. But for everyone else, it's a lot of money and it's a lot of teams involved.
Schaefer, as you look at the class that Nebraska's brought in from the portal, do you feel better about, and let's assume they get an offensive tackle somewhere, whether it's Pritchett or somebody else. Let's say they get some offensive tackle piece to give them a little bit more depth because they clearly want that. Do you feel better about Nebraska's roster moving into the spring now that we have a pretty good idea of what that portal class is going to look like? Or did you like it better before the guys that left Nebraska entered the portal?
You and I had a really interesting conversation after the Iowa game where I was a little concerned about how things were sort of sitting or who was going to be in some of these critical spots. I feel like they've done a nice job adding veterans that can step in when in a year and then move on without blocking some of your young players. What I'm talking about is a Trent Watson comes in and he's going to have a year and he can kind of replace your John Bullock, but he's not going to take away from where you want to go with Dawson Merritt and Christian Jones and Vincent Shavers and some of your young guys. Like, I think it's good to have some of these veterans that have produced that can step in and likely are going to be starters, but aren't necessarily blocking. And then they did a nice job of adding some young players. I mean, obviously you got to talk about Williams, Winery. You hope that there's still that big upside there, that he can bring it off of the edge. They brought in a couple of defensive linemen. I'm still curious what the picture looks like at nose tackle, what ultimately ends up there. But for the most part, I think they've done well. Like, I don't know that at wide receiver in particular, it feels like it's a slam dunk. I don't know that there's any other position where I'm just like, oh man, this has just been fantastic or this has just been trash. It feels like a lot of it is Dane Key, Hunter, the other Kentucky wide receiver. Like, that is a nice haul at a wide receiver position where you lost some talented guys in there. I mean, I will go to bat for what I think Jalen Lloyd can be and the type of worker that he is. And of everyone that's gone into the portal, that's like the one where it just kind of like hit hard for me because I wanted to see that guy have success in Nebraska. I know what it means.
Borkature for me. I'm this whole.
Well, Borkature is just odd because it's hard for me to internalize, like, hey, new coach comes in, all of a sudden you're being used in a way that maybe you could have been used all along, and then you still leave. And so, like, that one's difficult, but I don't know what the internal is like over there. I don't know if, he was just done. I don't know if it's hard to play tight end for the offensive coordinator that wasn't using you all along. So I can't speak to all of that. But for the most part, I think they've done well in the portal. It just feels like the biggest difference make or the biggest position room jump happened at wide receiver. But that's also where they lost a guy in Jalen Lloyd, where, like I said, that one just hit, and it hits in a different way. Like, it's not, I can't promise he's going to be the best player that left Nebraska by any means, but I think he has the upside, certainly.
That's Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. Schaefer, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Schaefer.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We're here on the Pillar Exterior stage. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Get to the casino in Lincoln or in Omaha to check it out today. DB.
Yes.
You got any winners today?
Well, I didn't have one yesterday. I don't like getting off to an 0-1 start.
I had a winner yesterday.
I know. It was very nice in the new year. Well done.
North Dakota State.
Faithful service. I agreed with you, too. I just couldn't ride your coattails.
That's all right.
I mean, you said it first, too, so I didn't want to be like,
well, that number jumped late, too.
To what?
So it was 3.5. North Dakota State was a 3.5-point dog when we talked about it yesterday morning. It closed at 6.5.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I was stunned.
Well, shoot, man. No wonder you can afford that Mercedes.
That's free money.
I like that.
Free money. 6.5. Like,
I did not know that.
8 hours, that thing jumped 3 points? That's crazy.
Are you sure?
That's what ESPN had as the closing line was 6.5.
I'll take it. Sketch.
Okay. That's the place where I saw the closing line. I didn't look anywhere else.
I don't know how accurate they are all the time. Sometimes it's like a full point and a half.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look anywhere else on the closing line.
But they're big enough where they may be their own entity because does ESPN Bet carry their own lines?
They do now, yeah. They used to, I think so. They used to use Caesar, And I think when ESPN bet
Julius.
Augustus.
Do you watch that show? Do you watch ESPN Bet? Or
No,
Bet,
the show?
Is it Bet ESPN or ESPN Bet? It's something. It comes on between like 4 and 5:30 sometimes.
Not regularly.
Too busy trying to figure out Dre Taylor, or
Just doing other stuff, got stuff going on.
is that what it is?
Trying to figure out
reading through 100-page depositions and lawsuits.
Trying to figure out if Wilt Chamberlain's alive or dead.
Wow.
Or,
See, just let it go. Frozen,
like Frozen,
man.
let it go.
Yes.
Big-
You slid that way. It was nice. It was nice, but I moved on from Will.
I believe ESPN does their own lines now.
Okay.
Caesar used to provide them when they launched ESPN Bet. They took it in house, I believe.
Yeah. So I guess this morning, and it's since gone to 2. What I liked, and it's early, so sometimes I have to watch
Where it closes,
like line movement.
Yeah.
I really, 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 really liked Florida on the money line.
Yeah.
Against Tennessee.
Ooh. You going money line?
Well, it was 1 then.
Oh, sure.
It's like 2.5 now. And I think at 2.5, because I believe, I believe that Tennessee should still be the number 1 ranked team in the country.
Okay. Not buying Auburn.
I just don't. It's a trust thing, right?
Bruce Pearl?
And probably a Barnes over Pearl.
That's interesting.
I
was
know
actually,
you don't love Barnes.
No, I was thinking about that the other day because I don't know that I trust either of them like implicitly. And so I really was thinking about this the other day. I go, you got Barnes and Pearl at the top of the college basketball world, and I don't know if I trust either of them that much.
My opinion, Rick greater than Bruce.
I don't know. Bruce has been pretty good. I mean, so has Barnes. Been pretty good a couple different places. That's interesting. I really don't know who I take over. But I think I do take Tennessee over Auburn, though, this year. I don't know if I can make a sweeping judgment on Barnes over Bruce, but you like Florida tonight?
I do. But maybe not at 2.5.
Maybe not at 2.5 anymore?
Yeah.
See if it comes back down for you?
Yep.
What, anybody else tonight?
I hadn't studied. I like Nebraska.
To go on your ESPN thing, they've actually got Florida at 3.5 now. So they might be off by a point or point and a half, like you were saying.
Florida is really, really capable. Who were they playing on our group text with me, you, and Maddie? Oh, it was Carolina.
Yep.
It was Carolina.
That was a couple weeks ago.
And they were that first half that Florida played was incredible. Of course, Carolina's offense in the half court is really, really bad.
Yeah, terrible.
But then Carolina made the run late.
You guys gonna keep hanging out with Hubert, or you got to do something, right?
I would say yes, but I said that last year.
Like that's
and you have to remember, outside of a historical run,
that's not a well-coached basketball team.
They've grossly underachieved.
Yeah, I mean they were the number 1 team in the country preseason and finished unranked.
I just don't want to waste Jackson and some of those guys.
That's not a well-coached basketball team.
No, I am inclined to
9-6 overall.
Okay.
It makes me sad to see.
No, it doesn't.
It does. I kind of like North Carolina.
No, it doesn't.
I'm not like you, where I'm like, yeah, North Carolina, but
that's fine.
As another name for a game hen, it warms the cockles of your heart.
I do like North Carolina a little bit. I'm a big Vince Carter guy, big MJ guy, obviously.
Yeah.
I know you were a James Worthy guy.
I did like, not my fave. Perkins is my
fave.
Sam
Perkins was your fave. Okay,
yeah.
That's right.
I do like big games.
I was a big Ed Cota guy.
He wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
No, big Kendall Marshall guy.
Oh, I like Kendall Marshall a lot. Yeah. Those were good teams.
Big Jeff McInnes guy.
Okay, that was 93. Yep. I think my favorite. I didn't like him in the NBA. I really liked Raymond Felton in North Carolina.
Felton was nice.
I really liked Raymond Felton in North Carolina.
You like skinny Felton, not fat Felton.
Yeah, I like
he's fat Felton.
Yeah, NBA Felton was fat Felton.
But he was.
But
he's
in shape Felton in North Carolina.
He's that classic.
He was no like Khalid El-Amin fat, but he was.
Khalid was the deal.
He was good though.
I love Khalid El-Amin. I have a weird affinity for him.
I do too, because they beat Duke in '99, and I was really happy about that.
He was very, very good to feed it to Alvin's. So T&E was playing up in Minnesota. And this was years ago. I actually took a picture. I mean, Caleb still had these chubby cheeks, but he bowled. And Khalid came to come watch him. But his son, Khalid's son, gave Teeny the business.
Yeah.
And Teeny won. It's tough. Like, we'd go to Minnesota, and it was the whole grassroots. And, like, they had
Minnesota's got good ball there.
Really good players.
Yeah.
Like Jalen Suggs and those guys, which is where
Holmgren came up.
Which is when I fell in love with
Suggs.
With Suggs.
Yeah. I was
as
a
a youngin'.
Yeah.
But I thought he was going to be a better football player. But anyway.
A lot of people do.
I was a big Khalid El Amin guy.
Yeah.
And he would just sit in the gym and mind his own business.
Just chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, how about Garcia's emergence for multiple years in a row going back home, staying close to Minnesota? Is that not the strangest case of a highly
strange
touted basketball player?
Yeah. Because I didn't know what to do with him when he transferred.
And remember, he just disappeared in Carolina.
Yeah, just
during
just peaced out.
Allegedly, like, his dad was sick.
Yeah.
But then he just, like, never came back.
Yeah.
But I think being close to home.
It's good for some guys.
I mean, frosted tips and all. Boy, that you talk about the drunk Big Ten. How about that game?
It's good. Yeah. Yeah.
That was my buddy's lock of the day, too. He loved Minnesota.
Minnesota, Ohio State?
Yes, loved Minnesota.
I don't really know what to do. I mean, we've talked about this in our group chat quite a bit. I don't really know what to do with the Big East. I don't really know what to do with the Big Ten.
So the Big East is tougher to cap than the Big Ten because you can't plan for, like, what was almost happened at Gamble.
Yeah.
In the Big Ten, like, I could see Ohio State struggling in Minnesota, but, you know, Minnesota's in trouble, though, as a program.
Yeah. Yeah.
But who's really bad in the Big Ten? Did you not watch Rutgers in Wisconsin last night? Rutgers, you have to pull your hair out.
Yeah.
This is Pikel's most talented team.
What did we say? I don't remember if this was
all
on
fair. It was all fair.
Some guys can't coach good players. They can't. You know this is true.
Yeah, don't get me started. You want to go back to the infamous segment? Like, I hate the whole just give them their players thing.
Yeah.
It's not true.
100% it's not true.
Like, I hate that.
Some people are very good at coaching good players. Some people are very good at getting the most.
I mean, but that is a talented Rutgers group. And at no point were you like, oh, my gosh, they're going to lock in and get a stop.
No, not at any point.
I mean, you're just letting Tanji do whatever he wants to do.
Whatever he wants. There's some guys that are really good at coaching really good players. There are some guys that are really good at getting the most out of average players. There's some guys that can't coach at all. That's a whole other story.
Are you an ace guy?
Not really.
I mean, like, top 5. Does he look like a top 5 pick?
Not really. I mean, I get the factors that get you to a top 5 pick, but I don't watch him and go, yeah, I want to bet my franchise on that guy. Right?
Yeah.
I don't. That's not where I.
You're going to watch 2 guys tonight, and one of them is going to come off the bench because Peyton starts, and Bryce will come off the bench for Iowa. But, you know, Peyton Sandiford, it's hard to believe because we used to play against him, and Bryce with and against. Like, Peyton is a senior.
Yeah.
Iowa. And I'm thinking to myself, I've watched some of these guys a long, long time. And what did you tell me again when we're done with the COVID thing? Is it next year?
I believe next year is we're done.
So we'll stop getting the super old
24-year-olds for the most part until the NCAA changes the rule and you get 5 years of eligibility. You can do whatever you want. And then you go to JUCO and then have 5 years of eligibility.
Knock it off.
We'll have 27-year-olds playing college sports. No big deal. My bet on it is Nebraska covers the 4.5 against Iowa. Let's bet on it. Brought to you by Warrior Sportsbook.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back. It's the Pillar Exterior Studio Stage. I am ODB. That is Ravi. Lulla reminding you, if you're looking to find, you want to max out. I'm a big max out guy. Finding your maximal self. Make sure you stop out and see the fine folks at Game Day Men's Health. Visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Personally speaking, you're like, oh, man, this show is sensational, man. I love the new DB. We kind of like the old Ravi. It's Game Day Men's Health, man. Feeling better about myself. It's for the everyday man, too. Like, it doesn't have to be anything super heroic. It can be as minimal as your testosterone health. It could be vitamin injections. It could be your testosterone health. Plenty of treatments. You may even go Botox. You want some nice full lips like your boy?
Did you get the Botox or is that natural?
Are you nuts?
Well,
this is all natural.
Oh, okay.
That's a brother thing.
Oh, okay.
Just make sure you visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com in and out. And I'm going to guess 35, 40 minutes. And here's the dirty little secret.
Yeah.
It's an amazing place.
Yep.
It's a cool little location where they do the tests and the lab work. It's on site. It's clean. It's cool.
Get your results while you're sitting there.
You got a fantastic TV setup. And if you're like Ravi, you can eat snacks.
Man, they have some good snacks. Had some
I'm going to go back
snacks.
and just I'm going to pretend to need some more lab work done because I am up.
Yeah.
I'm just going to eat the beef sticks.
I'm going in today to get my labs done.
Hey, grab me some beef sticks.
Some beef sticks.
Put them in your pocket like tater tots.
I eat Nutter Butters. Who puts tater tots in their pocket?
Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, that's right.
Pedro.
Man, I haven't seen that in about 15 years.
So I follow a dude on TikTok that makes fun of NFL guys, and he comes across
with
some Napoleon Dynamite tendencies.
He's got some.
Although I'm going to have to let him know, stop killing Mike Tomlin.
He's got some Napoleon vibes.
Yeah, it's a good win.
What?
Mike Tomlin last 45 seconds. By the
An
way,
effort to be a component of
pressing.
He's why are you mad that he's making fun of your guy?
pressing.
Equal opportunity.
Offender, yeah, he is. He killed.
Hear the
Pickens.
word.
He did kill Pickens.
Did I send you that?
Yeah, he killed Russell too.
Oh, I mean,
deservedly so.
you say it lines up to 10?
It
Seems like a lot.
It does seem like a lot, but I do think it's a little of an overreaction from how the two teams have been playing. But Pittsburgh's not playing.
And the Ravens just drummed them.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's not playing well right now.
I don't need you to remind me of that.
The Steelers aren't playing real great right now.
I'm well aware.
Man, there's no shortcut to it.
I know, Mike.
You know, we were talking.
My man Jock Slap, he said, all Bruce does is win. I'll take him over any current coach besides Hurley herself. Yeah, I don't know about that.
So
he definitely wins a lot. But Barnes has more wins. Dirty little secret. Barnes has more NCAA tournament wins at Tennessee than Pearl does.
Ooh, does he?
Yeah, 9-8. Trust me.
All right. I was just asking.
And the other thing is, and that's with a guy. I mean, I don't look. I'm not knocking Pearl. I just don't love him against light competition.
You hate Bruce Pearl. That's what I heard.
No, I don't. I like Bruce.
Just
Pearl.
a hater. Why are you such a hater?
You know what's interesting?
Yeah.
I'm surprised at this. This is off topic, but not off topic if you're a Bruce Pearl guy.
Mm-hmm.
Jabari Smith's evolution has surprised me.
In the NBA?
Because I thought he was going to be a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
He's progressively growing into a more evolved scorer.
I was confused.
And he's quietly kind of the third or 3.5 piece.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
I was confused when they were talking about him as a potential number one pick because I was like, he's just a taller guy that can shoot. Like, what else are we doing here? Like, he's a good athlete, right? He's got some of the physical traits, but he didn't show that at Auburn, the what we've seen develop in Houston there.
Oh,
like,
you know who wants to have some words with you?
Who?
Micah.
About what?
Are you watching Thompson?
Oh,
Amen? Yeah. He just went for 27 the other night.
Dude, anybody can go for 27 in a regular season game. Who's that total journeyman that went for 34 the other night?
Journeyman?
Yeah. Who? Bo something?
Steve Perry?
No.
Who am I missing?
Some loser went for like 34 last week. In the end, like these random regular, like Brandon Jennings dropped a 50 bomb.
Dude, Brandon Jennings is nice.
Brandon Jennings barely hung out of the league. Brandon Jennings was mediocre.
Oh my gosh, you blasphemer!
Brandon Jennings,
God,
come on.
Like putting this cord around your throat. Is that Genghis Khani?
Yeah,
that's a bunch of BS.
Dude, my man AK hit me with a stat.
You got some Vlad the Impaler vibes going on over there.
He hit me with a stat that I am floored. I barely recovered.
Okay.
He goes, man, this is incredible. So allegedly, this goes back to Genghis Khan the first hour.
Why wouldn't it?
He goes, and he's the guy that I tell you like knows a little bit about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Remember we were talking about the beer business and the industry and whatever. He goes, Khan is supposedly responsible for 0.5% of the direct descendants of the Earth's population because of the raping and pillaging.
I've heard that. I have heard that.
I just want you to put that into perspective.
That's aggressive. So let's do 0.5%. What's the current population? Like 7 billion?
I think we're touching 8 now.
Are we up to 8?
I think. Did you know Nebraska's
4, 6, 8,
Nebraska's
12.
at 2 mil?
Oh, we are at 8 now. God, people chill out, man. Jeez. You know they have products for that.
Like I still haven't recovered from reading that.
So 0.5%?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to do the numbers here. That's about 40 million. It's a lot.
Is that like
it seems aggressive.
And he's typically right.
Genghis, I need you to chill. The 8 billion people in the world, I need you to chill. That's too many people.
So yeah, look back to that whole thing. I'm not a Genghis Khan fan.
I
just said I was
Genghis Khan fanatic.
I was captivated early on in my.
Here's what I will say.
I've evolved though. I was
how
doing
so?
like. I've just come a long way. Like. Seriously, I used to want to be Marcus Garvey. I've clearly come a long way.
Seem more like a Steve Garvey to me. Baseball guy.
You guys are going out, huh?
Baseball guy. Dodger?
No.
That's how I meant it. I don't know. You meant it.
I did meet him at the CWS back when it was at the Blatt.
I thought you'd like to be compared to a Dodger great.
I was enamored that he had perfect hair.
See, I thought you'd be like, oh, Steve Garvey, Dodger great. What a great compliment Ravi just paid me.
It's not what you.
Does that surprise
exactly
you that he
what I
had
meant.
perfect hair?
Steve Garvey?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's
you were
delayed his-
you were producing back at the mothership.
Yeah.
You're right. I should.
That was, by the way, that was the day I fell off the. What's the thing that the police ride where you don't have to use hands, or it's not like
You seem very hurt right now.
Oh, like a Segway?
Yeah.
Yeah, those things freak me out a little bit. I don't really know how they work.
Yeah, much respect.
Not trying to do one of those. I will say I do got to apologize to Micah because Amen Thompson has raised his 3-point percentage by 10 whole percent this year to 24%.
Oh gosh, here we go. Look, speaking of which, your ears must have been burning.
No, that's the one that likes me.
Yeah. I wonder what he wants.
You know you're working.
Yeah, he does.
Amen Thompson. Yeah, 12 points a game. I'm blown away. Just stunned.
You're such a hater.
I'm stunned.
At that time, the kid was 12, and you're arguing with him.
Yeah, I will always argue. I'll argue with anybody.
You don't say.
You think I care?
I'm surprised. Did you feel compelled to go in on Nebraska versus Iowa because of what I said?
I mean, you wanted to talk about it, so we can talk about what you
No,
want
I'm
to
talking
talk
about your pick.
Oh, no.
4.5's too many?
Yeah, I thought 4.5's too big.
Schaefer is spot on, though. When Nebraska loses up there, it's typically not good.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the type of Nebraska team this
Do
is,
you know what the total is?
Ooh, not off the top of my head.
Dude, it's 161.
Well, that's high.
That's 80 apiece.
That's high. I'm not saying it's too high, but that's a big number.
Yeah, that's 82-78.
I know that's coming off of the
230
burger that them in Wisconsin put up the other night. 227, 220, whatever.
Although
it was.
apparently Wisconsin gets to play however they want now, post having a really good point guard in Chucky Hepburn.
I guess.
I mean, that thing was a free for all.
Maybe it was a little wake up call.
When you talking about for guard this year?
Yeah, when Chucky left, I was like, oh, hey, maybe I can't keep good players when I put them in straitjackets and don't allow them to play basketball.
Mm.
That's a thing that that's why I've never really understood. I respect.
How does Iowa State make it work?
You have to recruit the right guys for that.
They're top 5 in the country again.
Yeah. Otzelberger's.
I think they're laying like
really, really good.
I think they're laying like 18 tonight against Utah.
I don't personally love that style of basketball. I get it's effective. It's just like it doesn't meet my eye.
But I think they're like 12-1.
Yeah,
Do they have more than? I don't think they have more
than one
loss.
It's one loss. I don't know if it's 12 or 13 or however many wins, but it's one loss. Like they're really good. They're what, third?
Uh-huh.
I think they're third in the country. I think it's Auburn, Tennessee, them.
Yeah, it's not a.
They just drubbed Baylor the other day.
Okay, so what happened? Do you feel like you can even remotely cap Georgetown Marquette tonight? What would you make that line?
I still don't trust Georgetown ever.
What would you make of the Georgetown game?
Where is it at?
Do you know Georgetown? I told you this in the group chat.
Mm-hmm.
I said, how in the world is Georgetown at 11 wins? And now it's 12 since then.
Yeah, I don't trust
Georgetown's 12-2.
I still don't trust it.
So at Marquette tonight, it's 12.
At Marquette?
It's 12 and a hook.
Well, I was going to say like 8.5.
Doesn't that seem like a lot?
12.5 seems like a lot. I was going to say like 8.5. And
How well is Cam playing, though?
I might be high. Yeah, they're pretty good. I really don't like Marquette, so it pains me to say, but they're pretty good.
Yeah.
That's going to be.
Speaking of Pearl, like if you want a gym, they'll hammer Texas tonight.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that one of you marking that down?
No, I just think they will.
Okay.
Because that line's going to be double digits.
That's not an official winner.
They will hammer
Just
Texas.
a vibe.
Yeah.
Vibe check. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We will be back tomorrow here with more Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.